My entitled friend demands that I drop everything that I'm doing at work just so I can give her money so that she can get home. But after being treated like her personal ATM for quite literally the majority of our friendship, I finally have hit my breaking point as I told her I'm not doing it this time, resulting in her and her fiance, as well as a bunch of her friends, messaging me and saying that I'm being selfish. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm an 18-year-old female and I've been best friends with a girl who I'll call Amy for the sake of the story ever since I was around 14 years old. During this time, Amy had taken advantage of my niceness a lot, as I am a huge people pleaser. She constantly uses me as an unpaid therapist and an ATM, which has been really getting annoying recently. In June, right after we finished our A-levels, Amy got engaged to her boyfriend, who we will call Nate, and even though I was happy for them because she had been with him since like the 7th grade, her engagement was awful for me as she expected me to organize 3 engagement parties. One for secondary school friends, one for 6th form friends, and one for friends from our sports teams. And I was expected to bring her a gift basket worth about $200 to each one of them, as well as buying her a set of gold, which is common in our culture, for about $400. Which, by the way, was really annoying because I ended up having to spend my entire paycheck for May and June on this, as well as dipping into my own savings. Throughout all of this, she was still going out and texting and spamming me, basically begging for money constantly. After the whole engagement party ordeal, I promised myself I wasn't going to spend any money on her that wasn't absolutely necessary, aside from birthdays and holidays, or if she was out at night and needs money for the bus or for like an Uber or something like that. Well, fast forward to today, and I was at work from like 9 o'clock until 6 o'clock p.m. At around 4:30 p.m., Amy started spam texting and calling me, but since I was on the shop floor, I didn't see it until I finished at about 6. Now, to sum up what she said in the text messages and voice notes, she said to me, "Hey, I'm out right now and I'm an hour away from my house, and it just started raining, and I have no money for the bus right now because I spent the last bit of my money getting lunch." Now, after I didn't respond, she proceeded to call me 7 times, as well as text me repeatedly the same things, saying that she couldn't ask anyone else because she was in a fight with both of her parents and fiance, and how apparently I was being a horrible friend for not sending it to her. Now, when I clocked out and I saw the text messages, the whole situation really annoyed me because she has my location and could clearly see I was at work, and I wasn't going out of my way to ignore her. On top of that, she is literally a grown adult. She should have known not to spend her last bit of money on lunch, especially if it meant she couldn't get home afterwards. It really annoyed me, so I didn't send her the money, and I actually texted her back saying that I didn't see her text message because, I was at work, and then, I just didn't even bother sending her the money. Well, she told a handful of her friends, as well as her fiance, the one she's supposed to be in a fight with, all about the entire situation. And of course, they all took turns texting me, saying I'm horrible for leaving her out in the cold, and that I should have sent her the money once I finished work, which has really got me wondering if I'm wrong for not sending her the money. So seriously, am I a bad friend for not sending money to my friend when she clearly needed it? Because right now, I just don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say it because this is crazy to me. Your friend does not care about you. They only care about your pocketbook and the money that's in it. Seriously, that's it. This Amy chick is 100% taking advantage of you, and everybody taking her side is out of their minds. Like, think about it for a second. Why are you the only person responsible for giving her money? Like, why can't all these other people messaging you also step up and be like, "Hey, I'll help you out for once"? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, seriously. Every single one of these people are just a bunch of hypocrites in my opinion. And what she's asking of you at the age of 18 is just insane. She really wants you to throw 3 different engagement parties. Like, are you kidding me right now? That's going to cost thousands of dollars each, and I'm willing to bet you probably don't have that kind of money right now. So in my opinion, if someone really is asking this much of you, and they're not at all showing any gratitude, or in any way, shape, or form standing up for themselves and doing things on their own, then in my opinion, that's a terrible friend who is absolutely taking advantage of you. Because if you keep letting this lady walk all over you, she will happily drain your entire savings dry, and quite literally never think twice about it, because her priorities are completely mixed up, especially if she's blaming you for her not getting home. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My idiotic job literally fires me from my job, all without telling me first, instead choosing to go behind my back as they plan on reassigning me to a different department without actually telling me first. But in the end, I was able to get some really petty revenge in a way that these people definitely were not expecting. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I do lab management for a lab. My background is not in the subjects studied in this lab, but I know the bare minimum and it doesn't get in the way of my job. I worked very hard to get where I'm at, and I have become very integral to the lab. A few months ago, I was put put into a documentation role that also involved dealing with cryogenic storage. And last Friday, a meeting was held with everyone except for me, which was really strange. After the fact, a friend on my team told me that during the meeting itself, everyone was told that I would be taken off this role and it would be given to someone more knowledgeable on the subject. And obviously, this really was hurtful, and it was unprofessional of my manager to not speak to me before this. Now, there is a bit more to this story, where basically someone blamed me for ruining their experiment and doing something that I did not do. So instead of actually talking to me about it, my manager just punished me for it and undermined me to the entire team. And the best part is that my manager has still not spoken to me to officially remove me from this role. Well, towards the end of the day, I received a message from the new untrained person in this role as they were asking me to do it for them. And again, at this point, no one had ever officially told me that I was no longer in my role. Oh, and by the way, they needed it done soon so that another scientist wouldn't be here past 6 o'clock in the evening. And that person just so happened to be the person that accused me. I responded back by saying, "Oh, I'll get back to you." But you know what? I never did. And the scientist had to stay several hours longer after the fact. Now, I know this didn't fix the situation, but honestly, with all things considered, it felt incredibly nice. Okay, honestly, any manager who does something like that is a complete piece of garbage. Like, seriously, think about it for a second. They would rather talk behind your back than actually approach you and be like, "Hey, this is what's going on." Like, if I'm not right for a role at work, dude, kick me to the curb and I will find something else. Or just put me in a position that you feel is more appropriate for my talents and my skills. Like, in no way, shape, or form do I ever want to be a burden on anybody else's workplace. So yeah, this didn't really fix the situation, but I don't blame you for a second in doing what you did, because your job's attitude towards you was completely unnecessary. Am I overreacting for being pissed off at my roommate after he suddenly quit his job as soon as we moved into our new house, putting me in a really frustrating situation because I really just don't know how to handle this any longer? Here's what's going on. I'm a 23-year-old female and I moved into a small 2-bedroom house at the start of the year with my boyfriend and his buddy who I'll call Simon. When we decided to move in, we all had full-time jobs and busy schedules. So I had expected that we would all be out and about during the day and just working so that each person gets their space. It wasn't a super cheap place, so Simon pays around $10 more per week for his room, while me and my boyfriend pay like $5 less and share a room. Well, 2 weeks after we moved in, Simon announces that he is quitting his job as he doesn't like it. I was a bit concerned at first as we had literally just moved in, and it's not really what I expected, but I hoped that he would start looking and find a new job within a few weeks of quitting. And to give him credit, his previous job wasn't great, and he probably did need a break from it. Fast forward, and it's now been 8 months since Simon left his job and we all moved in. Simon has not looked for a job once, and whenever the topic of jobs comes up, he says that he doesn't really want to work. Now, Simon sits at home all day long and blasts the TV loudly. He has his own room but never goes in it and constantly sits in the communal space. I go into work most days but work from home 1 day a week, and on my work from home days, he sits there blasting the TV with loud YouTube videos or sports. The house is so small, so my desk is essentially in the same place as the communal living space, but he continues to play loud TV and sits around all day. When I came home from work, he doesn't even offer anyone the TV or even moves out of the way. He just sits there till around midnight every single night. He then wakes up at about 7 o'clock in the morning just to do it all over again. Well, as a result, I am pissed off. His presence fills me with rage, and his TV playing nonstop fills me with rage too. I have no space in this house, which is something I expected to have even a little amount of when moving in, because I was under the impression that we would all be working. Look, I'm not an angry person, but I have built so much resentment that I started to hate him entirely. How on earth can you not see how inconsiderate it is to just sit around all day long? I have lived in several shared houses before this. However, I've never been so pissed off by someone in my life. It really feels like there's just this blob sitting around there all day, and I never have peace and quiet or a second to myself. So truly, am I right to feel pissed off and angry and disrespected that he literally left his job immediately after moving in? I feel like he's getting a pretty good deal on rent. However, he never uses his room apart from like going to sleep. I understand that we all live here, but I also think that you have to be pretty stupid to not think about how it could affect the other people you're living with. I literally dream about him moving out. I mean, I've never wanted anyone to get out of my life more than this guy. So seriously, am I being overdramatic or am I justified in any way, shape, or form? Because right now I'm really pissed off. Okay, this is such a massive betrayal of trust, it's not even funny. Simon literally pulled a fast one on all of you. He said, "Oh yeah, let's move in together." And then just almost immediately says, "Okay, psych, I'm just gonna quit my job, sorry about that." And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? Are you really just gonna sit around all day and not do anything? So in my opinion, I don't blame you for being pissed off. I will say though, if he is paying his rent and he's like cleaning up after himself and being a good roommate, aside from him blasting the TV way too loud, like if he's doing everything else, then I could see this working out, but I also think think some hard boundaries would really be important in this situation, especially if you want to find some kind of like common ground between the two of you. So hopefully this can work out in some kind of way, because I really would not want to live with Simon, especially if they're blasting music and just being disrespectful overall. My family treats me as an emotional crutch for my sister, and after spending nearly 2 months with her trying to help her out, especially after she lost her husband earlier this year, I'm finding myself at the end of my rope, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. When my sister lost her husband earlier this year, I immediately flew down and stayed with her for 2 months to support her through it. I love her and I've tried to be there in every way I can. More recently, she had to go somewhere for a few days and asked me to fly down and take care of her dog. It was supposed to be a 4-day visit, but I'm still here and it's been like over a month now, with time literally almost creeping up on 2 months in total. It's reached a point where I feel emotionally exhausted and honestly taken for granted. She gets triggered easily, not just by me, but by our mother as well, even though they live separately. And she's especially reactive when it comes to my husband, who has done absolutely nothing to deserve it. He is thoughtful, gentle, and respectful, but she seems to take issue with almost anything he does. When I try to clarify that he meant no harm, she says the problem isn't with me, but it is with him, even saying that I take her for granted. When I was trying to work, as it's really hard for me to focus sometimes, she threw a tantrum for not listening to her, which, by the way, I definitely was. When I told my husband what she said, that I treat her like an afterthought, he quietly said that he feels like I take him for granted whenever she's around. The difference is that he'd never yell at me for it, but she has. She still refuses to consider therapy no matter how gently I bring it up. I've become an emotional crutch and I'm expected to absorb everything while also putting my own life on hold. My family wants me to continue staying here away from my husband, and honestly, I'm at a point where I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, your family is an idiot and I can't believe they're trying to force you into this. If your sister literally cannot figure her life out and she's taking all of her problems out on you, then in my opinion, that's a good sign that you need to pack up and get out of there. You are not responsible for this woman's emotional state. Seriously, you stayed for 2 months. And in my opinion, if she still doesn't have her crap figured out by then that's her problem, not yours. You don't have to be an emotional punching bag and you don't have to allow her to talk about your husband like that. So no, you're not the jerk for wanting to leave, because if I was in your shoes, I definitely would already be gone. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that her husband cheated on her, which eventually led to them getting divorced and me losing my job? Because right now, I'm not sure if I made a mistake and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this happened last year, but it's honestly still on my mind. And there are 3 people aside from me involved in this situation. I'm a female and I worked as a nanny for a family alongside someone I will call Ashley. Our boss, who I will call Amy, was married to a man that I will call Chad, and together they have 3 kids. We were all good friends as well as co-workers and employees. One night after going out for a few drinks, Ashley told me that Chad had made moves on her and she had reciprocated. I let the information sit with me for a week and continued with work as usual. After a few drinks the following weekend, I let it slip to Amy that Chad and Ashley had hooked up. This then caused a huge fight between Ashley and Amy, which then caused Amy and Chad to get a divorce. Ashley lost her job obviously, and for a little while everything at work was fine with me. But after a few weeks, Amy told me that my nanny services would not be required until further notice. Now this really upset me, as I was very close with her family and I felt I hadn't done anything wrong. I no longer have any contact with anyone involved, aside from occasionally bumping into Amy as we live in the same area. Whenever we bump into each other, she is always pleasant and very friendly. She's always pleasant and friendly, and to my knowledge, she has not hired a new nanny at all. Now, my other friends think that I should have just minded my own business and kept my mouth shut. So I'm honestly needing to know, am I the jerk for saying anything about this? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, across the board, I think saying something was absolutely the right choice here. If you didn't say something, that honestly would have been messed up, and I think it would have been worse if you knew and didn't say anything. Even though this cost you your job, still, I really think this was the right path to make, so in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay a no-show fee for a cooking class that I was unable to attend? Because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm on vacation in Italy, and I found a chef who provides cooking classes on Instagram a few weeks ago, and I decided to book him. He works with his wife, and she gave me all the info necessary so that I could book him. She then said that payment was required up front, and I was expected to be wiring their location. Now, I really did not feel comfortable doing this at all, as it has happened to me before with upfront payments that I ended up being scammed, so I told her I would rather pay in cash the day of. Well, she was very nice and said typically they did not accept this, but was willing to give me the benefit of the doubt and let me book. And when she said this, I was so excited. When we arrived in town, I sent another email to check if everything was booked correctly, and she confirmed. Well, the day of came along, and in the morning we were out. But unfortunately, I had no reception the entire time. When we got back to our villa, I noticed the chef's wife had sent me 2 emails and 1 Instagram direct message. One to tell me that they were waiting for us, and to tell her if we needed anything, and the other one was 20 minutes later to tell me they emailed me and I wasn't responding. And then one last email said that they were leaving as we were too late. Now, I wasn't responding because I had no reception, but I panicked reading that. I had booked for 11 o'clock in the morning, but got my plans all mixed up and was positive the cooking class was at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I know it was my mistake entirely, and I replied to her apologizing a million times and telling her exactly what happened and asking how we could possibly reschedule, while also wondering if they could still come in at 3 o'clock. Well, that's about when the issues started to come out. She said they were all booked out at different locations and at different times, so there was nothing she could do to help us out. At the most, she said she could send us the recipes after being paid, and I was so confused about the payment and asked what that was about. She then sent us an invoice charging us half of the cooking class and said she was actually being nice, charging only half for the recipes. And she said she did this so that we would not feel like paying for nothing. And you know what? I was so baffled because yeah, I know it was my mistake and I apologized, but I had no idea this is how it works. What if someone gets sick and just can't come over? Anyways, I'm now thinking of an appropriate way to handle this, but I just feel like I shouldn't have to pay for something I didn't attend. If they work with tourists, then they should know that stuff happens. My friend says it's ridiculous of them to expect us to pay, and I should just stop replying to them because they're trying to push money off on me. But right now, I don't know if that would make me the jerk, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, the original poster sounds incredibly entitled. Yes, in case you're wondering, you are absolutely the jerk. First of all, they put a lot of trust in you. Typically for things like this, they make you do a deposit, but they said, okay, you know what? We'll just have you pay cash on the day of, and that'll be fine. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Well, congratulations, because you probably ruined their trust in tourists altogether because you decided to be that person. And by the way, I don't know of any phone that needs reception just to tell the time. Like, you literally could have looked around at any clock on the wall or asked someone on the street, hey, do you know what time it is? And they probably would have shown you their phone and been like, oh, you're late. That's what time it is. Like, seriously, you're such a rude person for doing this. Not to mention the fact that you knew what time it was. You even confirmed the time when you came into town. Like, there is no good excuse here. So yes, you are the jerk, and I think you absolutely should pay for wasting their time because the way you acted was completely unacceptable. My sister seems to think that just because I work from home, that must mean that I'm somehow free for childcare for her kids. Because right now she is constantly asking me to babysit her kids, even though I am literally on the clock. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I work full-time remote in a pretty demanding role. And my sister just had her 3rd kid and she is completely overwhelmed. And trust me, I totally get that. 3 kids sounds like an actual nightmare. But she started asking me more and more to just watch the kids for a few hours during my workday. And she wants me to do this literally while I'm supposed to be working. It started small by her asking, hey, can you keep an eye on them while I take a shower real quick? But now it's escalated to her asking me to take them to the park. Or she'll say something like, can they just hang out with you for the afternoon? And when I say I can't, she throws out a guilt trip. She'll say stuff like, you're at home anyways. You just sit at a laptop all day. How hard is that? Well, last week I finally told her that I can't be the default childcare just because I work from home. She then got super cold and told our mom that I'm being selfish and that I don't understand what real responsibility is. Our mom thinks that I should help out more as a family since I don't have kids, and apparently that means I have unlimited free time. And now I feel incredibly guilty, but also really angry. I'm not choosing Netflix over her kids. I'm literally doing my job. So am I overreacting here? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, dude, your sister's being so weird. Just because you work from home doesn't mean you can babysit all the time. Like, that is so unbelievably toxic and so entitled. So no, you're not the jerk, your sister's being dumb, and I would just completely ignore that. Am I the jerk for leaving a job that my friend got me into? All because the job really sucks. Because right now I'm being guilt-tripped hard, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my friend and her husband both work for an authorized retailer in mobile sales. They offered me a management position at one of their stores, and at first I was so excited. I mean, this was going to be my first management job. I was proud and ready to prove myself. But after the honeymoon phase wore off, I finally realized what I actually signed up for. The company pays the managers a salary, but it's not a real salary. If I miss a day, they take it out of my check. I work overtime every week and I don't get paid for it. A few weeks ago, my mom was vomiting blood. She's a heavy drinker and it really scared me. My dad wasn't doing anything, so I took her to the hospital and I missed 2 days of work. When I got my check, they deducted a few $100s. I also only have like 1 sales rep who shared between like 3 stores. I have an 18-month-old baby, so if anything happens and I need to call out, it's a massive deal and I still lose pay. There's zero work-life balance, and that's something I specifically asked about when I accepted the job. The group chats are also really toxic. People constantly post clips of others working and make comments about what they did wrong. It's embarrassing, and it just creates tension. Everyone complains about it, but the owner just simply doesn't care. Between the hours, the stress, and never seeing my kids, it's simply just not worth it. So today I put in my 2 weeks. After that, my friend texted me super upset, saying that she and her husband stuck their necks out for me. I've never argued with her before, so it really caught me off guard. I get being disappointed, but the way she said it made me feel like I owed her my peace and sanity. Ever since then, I've had calls from her husband, my manager, and even the president of the company, but nobody's actually addressing the bigger issue. It's like they just want to guilt trip me into staying. So now I'm wondering if I'm the jerk for quitting when the store only opened like 2 months ago, because at this point I really just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, your friend and pretty much everybody at this job is super toxic and you do not owe them anything. Like, first of all, that sounds miserable, and the fact that they're not willing to be more flexible with you is like all you need to know. So no, in my opinion, you're not the jerk. You have every right to leave a job that's not serving you well, and from the sounds of it, this job sucks and you can do way better than this. My entitled sister is claiming that she understands me grieving the loss of my husband because she herself lost her dog. And now she thinks she understands me fully when it comes to how I'm handling the loss of my husband. But after telling her off and saying no, these are not comparable, she freaks out and is now refusing to talk to me. And I'm now not sure if I'm the jerk for this situation, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To make a long story short, I lost my husband only a month ago. It's hard. I'm still grieving, and I miss him every single day. I have to take medication for depression and anxiety to help me get through the day. Last week, my sister's dog was put down due to some health issues, and she was very upset, which is understandable. She called me as soon as it happened and said I was the only sibling who would understand her pain. I didn't mind, honestly. I just wanted to comfort her since her dog meant the world to her. She held a wake for him and our whole family attended. It really was a nice service. But now she is actually comparing our losses, telling me she knows exactly what I'm going through, that she can relate to the pain of losing someone so close to you. She calls me asking if we should visit graves together. It was fine the first time, but it's constant now. She goes 3 times a day. It's already difficult to go once a week for me, and she knows this. I feel like she's not even considering my own grieving process. Anyways, I told her that grieving her dog is not the same as me grieving my husband. Now she's upset and is refusing to talk to me. I get it. It was uncalled for, really. But my loss is new to me too. And I guess I just got frustrated with how different we're dealing with our losses. I don't know. I feel like she should be able to understand where I'm coming from as well. A dog is not the same as a husband. A dog can't love you back like a husband can. A dog can't read to your children like a husband can. A dog cannot make soup when you're ill like a husband can. It's really hard for me right now to discern when I'm being condescending or not. I don't know if it's a side effect of my medication or if the empathetic part of my brain has just shut down, but I am really getting tired of her comparing our pain when she lost a dog and I lost my world. At the very least, she still has her husband to lean on. I have 2 young children at home, and I'm processing a loss unimaginable to most kids their age. And she's trying to whisk me away to graveyards to visit her dog. So honestly, am I the jerk for telling my sister off? What should I do? You are not the jerk. Your sister is crazy. How can she actually compare the two? Like, this is not even in the same wheelhouse of things that you could grieve about. One is a living, breathing person that is no longer with us, and the other is a dog, a literal animal. Like, those are not even comparable. And the original poster has it right. It's already hard enough to grieve the loss of her husband, but now she has her stupid sister coming in and being like, I understand your pain. Like, no you don't, idiot. You still have your husband. The original poster lost their husband. They don't have them anymore. And the original poster's sister can always get another dog, and that would probably fill whatever hole in her heart she's experiencing. And also, this is really selfish of the sister to step in and try and be like, oh, I understand your grief because my dog died. We're on the same level of grief understanding. Like, no, that's not how this works in the slightest. You are seriously crazy if you think that, and there's no way that kind of attitude or behavior should be tolerated. So if your sister doesn't want to talk to you anymore over this situation, just remind her that your situations are not comparable. And the fact that she would try to say that they are is honestly mind-blowing and unbelievably inappropriate. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius? Check it out, link down below in the description. Am I the jerk for being excited to tell my ex-girlfriend, who cheated on me by the way, say that she won't be getting a dream job at my company. Here's what happened. So my ex-girlfriend and I split up about 18 months ago after being together for 5 years. My ex started university later than everyone else and graduated last year. I found out she was cheating on me when my friend had spotted the two of them kissing, as well as flirting and getting handsy in the bar. I confronted her about her cheating, and she tried to spin the whole thing around on me. The breakup was messy and it stung a lot. I currently work as a recruiter for a fairly decent-sized IT company in the city. My ex studied project management at university and has applied for an entry-level project management assistant role at the company I work for. Despite what happened, I was still fair to her in the first stage interview process. I didn't tamper with any of her answers, and she impressed the hiring staff. The interview process for the job was a 3-stage process, first stage with me and the other 2 with hiring managers and other people she'll be working with. I overheard through a mutual friend that she seemed to be really excited about this job. Today, I received the news from the hiring managers that they'll be going with another candidate for the role, and that it's my duty tomorrow morning to contact her and tell her that she was unsuccessful in getting a job that she's dreamt about. So it honestly begs the question, am I the jerk for being excited to tell my ex-girlfriend who cheated on me that she won't be getting her dream job tomorrow? First off, I want to say that yeah, I don't think there's a problem with feeling excited about that, but there is no way I would allow myself to be that person who tells her if I was in your shoes. Think about it for a second. You had a really messy breakup with this woman. You caught her in the act of cheating on you, you confronted her about it, and it was really not a good time when you had to break up with her. And while I totally understand that you want to try and get some kind of revenge on her, I also think it would not be in your best interest to be the one to do it. Like, your ex-girlfriend clearly sounds unhinged, and you can bet she would try to claim some kind of discrimination against you if you just so happen to be the one to tell her that she didn't get the job. She might try to claim, oh, my ex-boyfriend works there and he's the reason I didn't get the job, or some other garbage like that. Like, based on what you've described, I don't think it would be beyond her to try and do that. I mean, when you caught her cheating and when you confronted her about the entire thing, she tried to spin it around and blame it on you. You really think she wouldn't try to do that again on you in this situation? And to top it all off, this is a job that she really wants to be a part of. She's expressed interest in it, she went through the entire interview process, and she has said, yes, I'm very excited about working here. So in my opinion, you being the one to tell her would be a horrible idea. It could cost you a lot of trouble, and honestly, it might even cost you your job. My dad refuses to get a job despite all the attempts I've made to try and help him get a job, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. My father has been a fairly successful man in the past, and due to circumstances such as divorce and other financially related issues from 15 years ago, he has had to find other employment. I am conscious of this fact and always trying to be empathetic as possible when talking to him about this. Recently, things have gotten much worse, with him only being able to find contacts that last a few months and then is unemployed for the rest of the year. Despite this, I've been trying to help him and suggest any kind of avenues of restoring his business, his credit, working out payment plans for debt, and all this other stuff. He always says they're good ideas but never follows through. 2 weeks ago, we got into a discussion about me taking on his regular house duties like cooking and taking over more cleaning duties just so he can apply for more jobs, and he was doing great for the first 2 or 3 days, but after that he slowed down and is now barely applying for jobs from what I can see, and spending all his time either outside or on social media scrolling. As well as this, he is more concerned with the state of the lawn than he is with finding employment. Things financially are not in the best spot, and more than likely he will be struggling to pay bills and afford basic things in a month or so. In light of this, I've been checking on him every few days, and most recently asked why he is not sitting down at his computer or sending out resumes left and right. He tells me that he is outside chatting with people, and then when he shows me his LinkedIn, his last message is from a week before. I feel as though he could easily find something within the next few weeks if he just applied himself 100% and spent at least a few hours a day customizing resumes and connecting with people. In our last conversation, he said it is emotionally draining for him when I talk to him about these things, and says that I am being a detriment more than I am being of help. My thought process is that I am trying to get him to realize that the way he is going about it will more than likely land him in the same spot as before. My problem is my father is the type of person that will say one thing and then never follow through, and has made many promises to my sister about helping her with tuition and a car and many other things, which is the reason I've been pushing on these points so much the past few weeks. This has more or less been a pattern of behavior behavior for the past 2 years, and as much as I feel bad for him at times, it feels like a lot of issues stem from avoidance of the problem, and a lot of the time he puts his circumstances on other outside factors rather than focusing on what he can do. Obviously, I understand that these things that have happened in his life are discouraging and something he has to carry with him every day, but I feel as though for his family and himself, he should be working hard despite these things to try not to fall deeper into poverty. In contrast, my mother works extremely hard and barely can make ends meet, whereas my father is able to make good money quickly but does not have stable employment, which I believe is due to him not applying himself 100% or just being lazy. The last thing he said was the way I can help is by doing more and picking up more things that he does around the house, and I asked him, if I do this, will you sit down for a couple of hours a day and apply for something? And he said that help shouldn't be based on stipulations, which I do agree with a certain extent, but I feel that if I keep doing what I'm doing, it will have no effect on his motivation to find a job. My father never takes accountability for his actions, and it always seems like there's an excuse. So honestly, I'm not sure what to do. Do I give up on trying to help him follow through? I'm honestly not sure because I've tried so much, and at this point, it's starting to affect me and my motivation. He is not receptive at all to what I'm saying, and instead he's just completely dismissing it and turning it back on me. I'm starting to feel like I need to leave because things will not change, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, it kind of sounds like your dad's depressed. Like he's not applying himself for anything, he's taking all this time to just sit around and do nothing, and it doesn't sound like he's really motivated to do anything that he would probably want to do. And there's also the other side of it that, you know what, unfortunately you can't make him do this. You can't pressure him, and you really shouldn't be enabling him. In my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would not only stop telling him to try and get up and get going, but I would also stop helping him. Your dad is treating you like the nagging parent when it comes to job applications, and that's not fair in the slightest. He is an adult, grown man. This is someone who should have his life together and knows how to get his life back together if he really wanted to. And unfortunately, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. And if your dad doesn't want to get up and find a job, then that's on him, not you. My wife has soft cheated on me with her best friend, and I feel like my marriage is in shambles and I seriously don't know what to do. So I've been married to my wife by the name of Jane for 6 years. Jane is not her real name. We have a 3-year-old son, and we were both raised in an Orthodox religion, which is why getting married so young was normal for us. We have both had similar shifts to more progressive and less religious worldviews. Looking back now, we acknowledge our lives were unfortunately heavily shaped by our shared religion, but here we are anyways. A few years ago, my wife and I became good friends with some neighbors who went to church with us at the time. Very quickly, Jane became very close with Rose, who was the female neighbor. Eventually, they started becoming very touchy. They would hold hands, doing occasional sleepovers when me and Rose's husband were out of town, etc. I didn't like the romantic conversations that they seemed like they were having either. I also noticed that the friendship was becoming such a big priority that it was affecting our decisions about vacations and stuff like that. One weekend, I went on an out-of-state business trip. Rose slept in my house while I was gone, and when I got back, Jane immediately talked to me, crying and admitting that she and Rose had slept in the same bed and that things progressed from there, if you know what I mean. Not quite all the way, but just enough for this to be incredibly inappropriate. She said that they just didn't realize how far they were taking it until they had moved way past friendship touching. At this point in our lives, we were still very religious, so they both felt very guilty. I was really disappointed and I felt betrayed, but more so by how their relationship had slowly become romantic, despite me talking with Jane repeatedly about it. She promised to be better, but clearly that didn't happen. Over the years, we have stayed really good friends with Rose and her husband, which I now really regret and feel really dumb about. There have been times that I have noticed them sending highly romantic text messages or getting a little bit too cuddly. It really bothers me. When I bring it up, my wife is truly sorry about it and does a lot better for a while. She struggles with depression, so I felt like having Rose as a highly supportive friend is a net positive for her. Anyways, this last weekend, my wife accidentally left her phone next to me in my home office while she was out running an errand. She got a text message from Rose that I really didn't feel comfortable with, and then I proceeded to read many of their text messages. I saw a lot of text messages, literally 100 per day, about giving kisses, cuddling in bed together, about how they were each other's best parts of their lives, hinting that they wish they were in an even closer relationship, and all these other things. I was really hurt seeing this. I feel really stupid that I let this happen and that I have been willfully ignorant parent for so long. Over the years, I have waffled between being upset about the situation and wondering if I'm overreacting. I confronted my wife about it, and she is so sad about what she's done. She said they don't kiss on the mouth or anything like that, and that everything they say to each other is with the assumption that their husbands are actually the main priority. Now, I know the internet might jump to conclusions, but I really believe that they aren't kissing on the mouth or spending quality time together, if you know what I mean. My wife has always been very forthright and honest when I confront her about these things. After some questions, my wife admitted that she's not sure if she's bisexual or a lesbian, but she said that she is attracted to me. For now, she has stopped texting Rose. I told Rose's husband what happened, and I think he talked to Rose about it, but I haven't talked to him a lot since then. He is as aware as I am to their past and did have a very similar reaction to what I had. I am not sure if we will be friends anymore or what that will look like. I'm sad if I can't be friends with him anymore, but I am so done with my wife and Rose. I'm working on scheduling couples therapy for us. To be honest, I'm not sure what to do about this. I am totally exhausted by the situation, and overall, I just feel cheated. Whenever my wife expresses love to me, I can't help but think that it's a lie. I have loved being married to her, and I want us to be great parents, preferably together. How can I make this finally stop? Do I need to cut all ties with Rose and her husband? I don't want to leave my wife, and I'm honestly not sure if I can even salvage this marriage. What should I do? First off, you need to understand that your wife absolutely cheated on you. Like, she was straight up in bed with another woman, and they were kissing, making out, and doing a whole lot of other things. Like, seriously, you're really delusional if you think this is not cheating. And also, in my opinion, there's no gray area here. She literally went out of her way to continue messaging this Rose lady, all under the guise of, oh, we're just being really friendly with each other. No, you're talking about possibly dating. You're insinuating a lot of things that you want to do with each other, and that's not okay. You're literally married. So I think you need to take that into consideration. And hopefully couples therapy goes well for you, because your wife has absolutely betrayed your trust, and you really need to remember that moving forward. My coworker is making me uncomfortable with his manic behavior, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I really need some perspective on an uncomfortable work situation. I've worked with my coworker for about 7 years in an office with 30 other people. This coworker, who I'm going to call Jacob, has been unprofessional and makes everyone uncomfortable. Jacob is not his real name. Now, I'm trying to keep this vague, but he hates our boss, and he applied for her job before our boss was promoted, and he didn't get it. He wasn't qualified and is unprofessional. He has bullied people in the past and sent a really disturbing letter to another coworker. HR said they can't prove that Jacob sent it, but it was in his very distinct handwriting and happened shortly after an incident where he tried to intimidate this person. Jacob is in a union and uses that to his full advantage. He knows every trick and loophole to get out of work and go on long stretches of stress relief. He tries to say our boss is bothering him for telling him to do his job and not be insubordinate. He would leave work without telling our boss, and when he got in trouble, he tried to get me involved and vouch for him that he was in fact in the office that day. He did this by texting me in the middle of the night multiple times. I told him I wasn't sure which was the truth, but I also was not sticking my neck out for this person. He also put a hurtful meme in our break room that targeted certain people's religious beliefs. But again, this was done in secret, so we couldn't prove it was him, but we all knew it was him. Equipment has gone missing from our office that only he had access to, but again, it could not be proven that he stole it. Our industry is small, and I know someone who previously worked with him, and he was let go for another office because equipment was stolen. There's more to this story, but it's just some of the things he does, doing sneaky things that can't be proven, but we know he's behind it. I fully believe he's a sociopath. He's accused others of trying to secretly record him, and I'm actually afraid he has a recording app open on his computer when he's not here, just so he can listen to us, and I'm not a paranoid person. Jacob has recently been back to the office after an extended sick leave. I sit next to him, which makes me uncomfortable, but here's the problem. Jacob has not been doing anything that would count as harassment, but his behavior makes me nervous and uncomfortable. I don't know how to describe it besides manic. It's like he's on something. He usually comes to work and doesn't talk to anyone. He sits at his computer all day and leaves at the end of the day, but every so often he comes in and acts like he did a bunch of substances. In fact, this happened yesterday. He was talking to me non-stop, and when I said I had my headphones in, he just kept talking. He was trying to show me stuff on his phone at full volume, blaring in my face. He went around to everyone's office and was just laughing at nothing, acting super friendly like everyone's his best friend. He was openly trying to engage coworkers about private matters in front of me, to the point where they said they just didn't feel comfortable having the conversation in public. I actually had to leave my desk a few times because I couldn't keep interacting with him because I was just getting nervous over his behavior. I'm being encouraged by a few of my coworkers to write a formal letter to our boss saying that his behavior is very concerning. One of my other coworkers already did it. They said that if he makes you uncomfortable, that's all that's important. He's not technically harassing me, but it's the sudden change in demeanor that has me on edge. The loudness, the insistent talking, the mania, and it's not just the manic behavior. It's just that this person has a history of being antisocial, so it's very jarring when you come to work and he's telling me his life story in rapid fire speech pattern and acting like we're best friends. What should I do? Well, I mean, this really is a weird situation. You have a coworker who is clearly used to working the system, and it kind of seems like he's doing that right now. Not even to mention the weird behavior that he's exhibiting, which yeah, I believe you when you say it. This guy is not acting right. So in my opinion, write a letter to your boss. Tell him exactly the way he's acting and all of your suspicions about this guy. Hopefully, if anything, they can at least move where you work so you can try and have a different place to work and you can kind of avoid him because this guy's acting weird and I don't blame you for feeling uncomfortable. My entitled brother steals all of my beer out of my fridge after I let him come over to my place to watch a TV show. But once I found out, I decided to go nuclear by getting my parents involved and ruining any chances he had at denying that he did it. Here's what happened. So this happened some years ago. I don't let my brother stay over at my apartment because he's a blatant thief with any beer in my fridge. If I did something like get a lock for my fridge or something like that, then he would hide bolt cutters in his car. That is just the kind of person that he is. Anyways, years ago, he wanted to stay over at my apartment to watch something on TV. At the house he rented a room in, along with numerous other guys, they often fought over the TV. So I said fine, I would just be in my bedroom playing BioShock Infinite. Well, he showed up with a 6-pack of really cheap beer. I told him not to touch the good stuff in my fridge and to be out by the morning. Then I booted up my PS3 and wailed on some enemies with my skyhook. I had a few beers in the bedroom with me in a mini cooler, so I wouldn't have to interact with my brother unless I had to. I played for a couple of hours and then I passed out in my bed. When I woke up in the morning, I went to make some coffee. I was out of creamer, so I was just gonna use some milk. But when I opened the fridge, all of my beer and a bottle of whiskey was gone. This was good beer and whiskey too. The beer was a honey beer I still buy on the regular, and the whiskey was Jim Beam honey. I was instantly furious because I knew my no good, rotten, alcoholic thief of a brother stole them. So I called him up. It took 3 tries before he finally picked up his phone, and then he had the audacity to deny he even took the booze. But I pointed out that I had this stuff in the fridge, and it was gone in the morning, and he left before I got up. It literally only could have been him. Well, that finally made him own up to taking it, and then he complained he couldn't resist good booze. I told him I don't care what he can or cannot resist. I wanted it all back, but he brushed me off and said to just go to the store and get some more. I felt like I nearly burst a blood vessel in my brain because I was so angry, but he just hung up the phone on me. The next part I'm so proud of, but it's pretty much my brother's biggest weakness. I called our parents. They were pretty mad on my behalf too, because dad especially appreciates the kind of booze I do and immediately called my brother. I don't know what dad said to him, but my brother called a little while later and basically said to me, "Really? You got mom and dad involved?" I told him to bring the booze back, and if he opened any of it, he has to replace it. He said to me, "Screw you," and then hung up the phone. He showed up at my door later with the whiskey and beer. He hadn't opened the whiskey yet, but he had started in on the beer, so he had to buy another pack on the way there. Only it wasn't the same beer. It was the cheap garbage he always bought. I told him that wasn't gonna cut it, and he knew it. He said to just take it because he wasn't going back to the store. I then picked up my cell phone and I said, well, perhaps maybe I should call your ex-girlfriend next. She's almost as good at cowing him as our parents. He said I wouldn't dare, but I was ready to push the buttons. So he said, fine, and trudged back to his car. He came back about 20 minutes later, shoved a case of honey beer in my hands, then flipped me off with both hands as he walked away. Yeah, he's that immature. I told him he wasn't welcome to stay over ever again. And he said something like, yeah, whatever, big deal, all before taking off. True to my word, I haven't let him stay over since. He's been here for a party a few times, but I always watched him like a hawk because he still tried to take my good beer. He even got really upset when I made him put a can back in the fridge and only drink the cheap stuff. And there were times he wanted to see something on TV at my place, but I refused after what he did before, and he acted like a complete jerk for it. I said I didn't care. He messed around and he absolutely found out what the consequences were. How rude of your brother. Like seriously, if you're gonna come over to somebody's house, the least you can do is be respectful of their property. Like I'm sure if he went up to you and he said, hey, could I have some of your beer in the fridge? You might have been more inclined to let him have like one beer or something like that. But the fact that he just straight up stole it and said nothing, that in my opinion is completely inexcusable. So good for you for doing whatever it takes to get your stuff back, because your brother absolutely should not have stolen from you, and he absolutely got exactly what he deserved. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Am I the jerk for confronting my friend for taking our picture out of his wallet just to replace it with his girlfriend's? Here's what happened. So my best friend John and I have been friends since we were kids. As kids, we were very close, and we had a fake wedding when we were 7 and 8. In high school, we recreated the fake wedding pictures, and he had one of those pictures in his wallet. Since he got his girlfriend by the name of Sarah, that's not her real name, and this was around 2 years ago, John has distanced himself from me. We still hang out, but I feel like he always makes time for her instead of me. The only way I can see him now is if we grab a coffee once every few days, but other than that, he won't come to my house when he used to have sleepovers and movie nights, and he won't invite me to his house either. I feel neglected and hurt because we've been inseparable since we were small kids. A couple of days ago, I grabbed a coffee with him at a coffee shop, and when he opened his wallet to grab his card, I noticed that he put a picture of him and his girlfriend in the place he had our fake wedding pictures at. I asked him about it and pointed out how I noticed, to which the only thing he said was, well, what about it? I was like, really? Why did you take our picture out and replace it with him and his girlfriend? He said that his girlfriend is, well, his girlfriend, and he doesn't understand why I'm making such a big deal out of it. I reminded him that she might be his girlfriend, but he can't just throw me away. I've been his best friend since primary school. My picture existed in his wallet first, and he throws it away to replace it with someone he knows significantly less. He eventually got annoyed and told me that once I stop being an immature, annoying brat, he'll talk to me again. Until then, I better leave him to his peace because he's not dealing with my childish tantrums. So honestly, am I the jerk for confronting my friend about this? Am I in the wrong? What should I do? It's really crazy to think that the original poster is serious in this situation. You're really upset that your friend got rid of your fake wedding photo pictures and put a picture of his girlfriend there instead? Like seriously, you two are not dating. Unless you secretly had a thing for him ever since you were a kid, but like even then, you have no claim over this guy in his life. Your friend is 100% in the right. You're absolutely being an idiot, and he has no obligation to try and keep that picture around if he doesn't want to. Also, that's incredibly uncomfortable. Like seriously, you're attached to this guy as if you actually are married to him. But guess what? You're not married to him. Those were pictures that you took in high school as well as when you were children. And now in your early 20s, it's time to let that stuff go and just like, I don't know, move on with your life. Maybe move on and find an actual relationship instead of trying to cling to this pretend marriage that you clearly are really attached to. Like if you take a step back, this is incredibly weird. Like really, really weird. Like why would this guy seriously think that a pretend photo of the both of them getting married should somehow take precedent over his actual girlfriend? And it's also weird that this guy doesn't realize that his girlfriend absolutely is going to come first in this relationship, meaning that her picture is definitely going to be there in his wallet instead of your staged married photo. So truly, the original poster is absolutely at fault here, and his friend has every right to be annoyed because his friend is acting like a jealous ex, even though they never had anything like that in the first place. Am I the jerk for calling my sister out when she judged me for living at home and wanting children later in life? Here's what happened. So I'm a 25-year-old female and I live at home with my parents. I did live alone before, but due to my mental health at the time, I moved back home. My health is now getting better, and I'm saving up with my partner to move out. I also pay rent to my parents, and I'm also paying my way as well. My older sister judges me for living at home and states that she moved out at 18 years old and it's not that hard. However, my sister seems to forget that she moved in with her then boyfriend's family, and after they broke up, she moved in with her now husband and basically has never lived on her own or really even paid a dime in rent. Yet she's the one judging me. Anyways, I travel with my best friend to go visit my sister as we both live a plane ride away from each other. As I arrived at my sister's place, she decided to say in front of my friend, who also lives at home, that it's super weird that I still live at home, and when she was 25, she was already married with a child. I told her that I'm going to wait until my 30s to have my children, and I'm saving up to move out. She then laughed at me and said that having children in my 30s is so old. But then I said to her, well, not not all of us are lucky enough to marry rich. She didn't like that comment and called me a jerk. So honestly, this begs the question, am I the jerk for calling my sister out after she's been judging me for living at home? Your sister sounds like a massive jerk. You are not the jerk in this situation, in my opinion. She is going over and beyond just to try and treat you like garbage, all because you live at home. And like, seriously, how does she not understand the extenuating circumstances? Like, she sounds incredibly ignorant, and the way she's treating you is so inappropriate. I'm also a firm believer that if you can dish it, you certainly better be able to take it. And it sounds like you flipped the script on your stupid sister, and you said to her, hey, you married rich. Not all of us can get that lucky. And that, in my opinion, was a completely reasonable response. She's been hitting you with this for a long time. And if I was in your shoes, I probably would have said something similar as well. So I would not feel bad about this at all, because your sister started this mess to begin with. And if she's gonna start it, then you absolutely can finish it. My cousin puts an entitled Karen in her place, leaving her fuming and flabbergasted. Here's what happened. Sarah is one of my many cousins, and she's got a quick wit and sarcasm like no other. Sarah is not her real name. When we hang out, not even my friends mess with her, because they know she can tear anyone a new one, if you know what I mean. Sarah always gets me laughing and surprises me with her sarcasm and wittiness. Before the coronavirus outbreak, it was one of those take your kids to work days, and Sarah's mom, who we will call Aunt Jane, that's also not a real name, took Sarah to work with her. Aunt Jane owns and manages a family-owned store and was introducing Sarah to customer service before showing her what it's like to manage a place. So when Sarah gets older, she can decide if she wants to be a customer service assistant or something else entirely. So enter Sarah with the quick wit when an entitled Karen comes over to one of the cashiers and demands free gift cards because nothing in the store is good enough, and she wants something to actually use when coming back to this crappy store, as she puts it. When the Karen demanded to speak to Aunt Jane about the subpar merchandise, my aunt explained she doesn't give out free gift cards, especially to rude customers who insult her employees, and these employees are just doing their job and making honest money. Sarah later told me that the Karen had one of those squeaky, high-pitched voices that got higher the angrier she got. The Karen was middle-aged, but she sounded like a preteen boy whose voice just broke. When the woman demanded more stuff, Sarah was furious with the Karen, who was now insulting her mom. Aunt Jane is the kindest person you'll ever meet, and Sarah is fiercely protective of her. Sarah's a tiny firecracker, and this was when she launched, and I would have paid good money to watch her tear this Karen a new one. Ma'am, they say with age comes maturity, but with you, I really think it missed the mark. No one with your helium voice should be subjected to dealing with you on a normal basis, weekday or otherwise. So either buy stuff and leave, or just get out right now, okay? Sarah said that, by the way, word for word, and I died laughing when she told me about it. The entitled Karen was fuming, and she demanded the small employee who didn't know her place be fired. My Aunt Jane said to her, "This is my daughter. She doesn't work here, I can't fire her. And I wouldn't fire her for this either. She doesn't tolerate bullies, and a bully is what you are. Please leave now, ma'am." The Karen was fuming but left, and right after, Sarah texted me the entire story. I don't think the entitled Karen will be going to my Aunt Jane's store anytime soon, but either way, my cousin Sarah absolutely rocks. We honestly need more Sarahs in the world. I mean, that Karen was completely out of line. There was no reason for her to jump up there and actually ask for free gift cards. Like, seriously, who do you think you are? You gotta pay for those. There's no way you're getting that for free. And it must be nice to be the daughter of the business owner, and also just to be the business owner themselves, because then you can tell these people to get lost and never come back, and there's really nothing they can do about it. They're not gonna hurt your paycheck or anything like that. So honestly, good for Sarah and Aunt Jane, because it sounds like they're not gonna take that garbage from anybody coming in with that kind of attitude. My father-in-law is trying to exclude me from my own pregnancy, and has just been acting really weird all around ever since he found out that I got pregnant. Here's what happened. So after being engaged for 2 months, I found out that I was pregnant. Because it was unexpected and a very personal thing for me, I decided not to tell anyone but my fiance until the second trimester. We have now told family and close friends, who have shown nothing but support and excitement for everyone's first grandbaby. I still do not plan on announcing my baby to the world or on social media anytime soon. This is honestly just a personal preference. However, last night, we told my fiance's father, and to say him and I don't have the best relationship would be an understatement. For example, whenever my fiance isn't around, he'll make statements such as, "You have birthing hips," and other commentary about my looks or mention my fiance's ex. To top it off, when we got engaged, he didn't congratulate us once and instead bragged to his friends and family about how my fiance just got a new job and graduated from college. Last night, we told him I was pregnant and he made the entire subject about himself and my fiance, saying, "Finally, a boy to continue our bloodline. I can't wait to watch him at sports practices." I mean, we don't even know the gender yet. And the entire time, my father-in-law talked about how my fiance is going to be such a great father, and not a single congratulations to me. And when his girlfriend mentioned buying baby clothes, he would cut her off and say, "Yeah, with what money? My money?" But what really irritated me was the fact that he got mad at me for waiting so long to tell him and wanted to know why he couldn't tell everyone about it and share it on Facebook. He even texted me about it right after I left. The entire time we were there, he referred to the baby as my fiance's and told us our lives were over and that we'll resent the kid for the rest of our lives. But at the same time, my father-in-law wants to watch the child for weeks at a time. He believes he is entitled to be in the room when the baby is born if he wishes to. When I told my father-in-law I only wanted my fiance in there, he told me that it wasn't my decision and I needed to include everyone in this experience. Let's just say my fiance and I have had long talks since then, and for my sanity, my father-in-law will not be seeing me or the child for a very long time. Your father-in-law sounds like a creep. First off, there's no reason for him to be making those kind of comments about your body. That's incredibly creepy and very weird, and that is something that definitely needs to be known between you and your fiance, especially if you haven't already talked about that. Also, the fact that he wanted to be there in the room while you were giving birth also really gives me the creeps. Like, it sounds like he wanted to be in there for ulterior motives. Maybe that's just me, but like, that's the vibe I'm getting. So I'm really glad you and your fiance came to the obvious conclusion that he is not going to be around you or the kid for a while. And obviously he's really hopeful that it's going to be a boy, but how is he going to treat that child if it's a girl? And if I were to make an assumption about this guy's character, you can bet he would probably mistreat your potential daughter in the same way he's mistreated you. He would dismiss you, act like you're not even in the room, and he would probably be creepy with her as well. So good for you for not only finding out exactly how your fiance's father is going to act, but also making the decision that nope, he is not going to be involved in your life or in your future kid's life in the slightest. And entitled Karen demands that we sell her scratch-off lotto tickets even while the power and registers are down. Eventually, my manager gets fed up, causing him to go out there and tell her to get lost. Here's what happened. So my store had a blackout a few days ago. A full 3 or 4 blocks blacked out for at least 3 hours. My store was affected and the registers and lotto machines were down. We were turning people away unless they needed to use the bathroom. Some were regulars who understood the whole problem because their house was also in the area. Then there was a lady who has an addiction to lotto scratch tickets, and this lady was known to drop at least $500 on scratch-offs and stay in my store for hours. On this day, my manager decided to lock the front door and used his cell phone to call the district manager. We basically had to keep the door shut and posted a sign saying no services, which we thought was enough. But the entitled Karen shows up as I post the sign and lock the door to wait for the district manager to come. She is banging on the door when I tell her that there's been a power outage and that registers are down. The entitled Karen then screams, "Can't you just give me a few scratch tickets? I have money." She has literally no concept of this, I guess. I say to her, "I'm sorry, I can't do that. The registers are down." She rolls her eyes and starts to talk to me like I'm stupid. She says, "I have money." At this point, I'm getting annoyed. I say to her, "I am not letting you in. Please come back when we have power." I lock the door and I go back to moving some items to the drink fridge. She continues to bang on the door and I see my manager who tells her to leave, while she still screams that she has money and she wants to get scratch-offs. My manager immediately shot her down. She said, "Didn't she tell you the registers are down?" My manager is looking at me and has a rather hard expression. The entitled Karen acknowledges that yes, I did say that to her, but she then goes on to say that she just wants us to ring it back up when the power comes back on. The manager finally decides to make a final say. "We are done. No, you are not getting anything until the power comes back on." About an hour later, the power is back on and the registers are down. We had to call the help center and it took another hour for the registers to be restarted. And it's right about then that the entitled Karen comes back, banging on the door and pointing at the lights, screaming that the power is on and she can now buy tickets. My manager and I are now staring at each other. Okay, I'm done. He then walks outside and decides to tell her to leave. I can hear him say it. "You have a problem and you need to get help. Please stop coming here. We are not selling you tickets." She then storms off, complaining at us about how corporate is going to hear about how we treated her. The district manager was also in the parking parking lot as she walked off. He saw the whole thing and said that we handled it better than he could have. It really sounds like that lady has some kind of addiction. Like seriously, there's no reason to act like that at all. First and foremost, they're just scratch-offs. Like the chances of you winning anything substantial besides like maybe $50 is really slim, and it's really just not worth it. I mean, I personally think that gambling is really stupid and a giant waste of time. That's just me personally. So to see someone who has this much of an addiction and spends about $500 a week on scratch-offs is honestly a little bit sad. So hopefully this lady never comes back, because the way she was acting was incredibly crazy, and I can only imagine dealing with that on a daily basis. My boss warned me that I had an off night and that I need to pick it up or there could be consequences, and I'm now really worried that I'm about to get fired. Here's what happened. So I first want to start off that I feel so sick and I don't want to get fired. I enjoy waitressing and I like making people happy. So tonight was quiet enough. I had one table, a group of 14, and I was a mess tonight, and I wasn't focusing at all. I was forgetting small things and just was not on the ball at all. I had one table and I was messing up so much. Later on, my manager called me aside in private and told me tonight was not good enough. And she was right too. She mentioned things like drinks weren't being offered or cleared, steak knives weren't being served, too many other people were having to deliver the food, and I wasn't serving the food as I should be. She also said that newer staff are outperforming me. She also said in comparison to how I worked last Friday, it was not good enough. Apparently, I was the best performing waiter or waitress last Friday on a busy night out of all the staff, and I did everything brilliantly. On the ball with everything, upselling, remembering the small things, etc. I don't know what I did last Friday differently. I was so in control of everything and I was so efficient. I was running my own food, my own drinks, remembering everything that has to be done. My section was full and busy and all my tables were happy. None of them were waiting too long for anything. I usually have an issue with responsibilities clashing all at once, but not on Friday. I did so well and I let myself down tonight. I feel so sick. I asked if it was a warning and she said yes. I do not want to get fired. I'm clearly capable of managing my own section efficiently. I had a bad night and I'm so worried about the next few shifts. What should I do? Honestly, it just sounds like you had a bad night. And I think your manager is smart enough to know that you really do know what you're doing. And it's not like you're not cut out for the job. I mean, you had a really good night last Friday, so it's not like you can't do your job. Everyone has an off night, and as long as you're aware of it, then hopefully it'll be easier to just get up and try again. An entitled husband asked me to take photos of his family for Mother's Day for free. And while we're trying to get this organized, he freaks out and starts screaming at his entire family, stressing everybody out and honestly causing a lot of problems. So as a result, I enlarged his head specifically in every photo just to get back at him for his awful attitude. Here's what happened. So I first want to start off by saying that I'm not a professional photographer, but friends and family ask me to take photos for them all the time. I love portrait photography and I'm happy to do the favor, but sometimes people are really awful and annoying, and then it really grates my skin that I'm spending my evening and weekend doing a photo shoot and then processing these photos for free. So a few years ago, I had a really bad client. A colleague asked me to do a family shoot on Mother's Day. I knew I would have the morning to play with before going to see my own mom, so I accepted. It was going to be at a winery in the country, and my colleague offered to pay for me to join them for brunch as well, which honestly was just a bonus. We carpooled together, and it wasn't until we got there that I realized that it wasn't just going to be my colleague, as well as her husband and her kids. It was my colleague's husband's entire family. Brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, parents, and even both grandmas. 27 people in total. I'm immediately panicking about how long it's going to take to do this shoot and mention to my colleague and her husband that I have to leave in 3 hours to get back to my family's Mother's Day activities. My colleague's husband said it'll be fine, but I really just don't have a choice. I carpooled there. So I try and relax and just have a good time. Brunch goes on forever, and when we're finished, we only have an hour for photos. I figure that should be fine if cutting it a bit close, and I ask my colleague's husband to help me keep his family organized and to keep things moving. I plan out the normal shots with my colleague's husband, where everybody's together, there's family groups, there's kids and stuff like that, and then my colleague's husband starts asking for couple shots as well. Then he wants sibling shots. I eventually texted my family and let them know that I'm gonna be a little bit late, but hoping it won't be too bad because my colleague's husband will keep people moving. An hour and a half later and everyone is having a bad time. The kids are crying, it's taking forever to get any shots at all, and the reason being is that my colleague's husband is yelling at people, hurling commands and orders, hours, barking, foaming at the mouth. It's incredibly awful. The winery people come over a few times and ask us to keep it down, but this guy starts yelling at them too. At this point, I'm just praying that they kick us out. I try telling my colleague's husband that I have to leave and that we can try again for photos another time. The family even tries to leave, but we are stopped. No, we must endure. When he tells his sons that he's going to knock the snot out of them if they don't stop crying, something just snaps inside of me. I stop trying to cheer people up. I stop trying to get fun photos or happy smiles. I just take the photos that we need so we can all just get out of there. When I eventually got home, I do what I can with these miserable photos. I combine different frames to get group shots where everyone looks happy. When that doesn't work, I touch up facial expressions so that people look less stressed out. I steal bits from candid shots earlier in the day. These are literally impossible masterpieces when I'm through with them. I spend hours and hours making sure these pictures are going to hang in living rooms forever. Then I go through every single photo featuring my colleague's husband, absolutely every single one of them, and just enough to be slightly noticeable, while also just enough to not make it look weird or awkward. I physically enlarge his head in every single photo, and I don't regret this form of petty revenge in the slightest. This right here is my immediate problem with carpooling. What if I don't want to be there anymore? What if the people I'm going with are actually crazy and I'm going to be stuck in some weird situation without any way of getting out of there? That's exactly what the original poster got stuck in. They were giving photos to these people for free, which was a big mistake, by the way, and they couldn't escape this situation even after their colleague's husband was freaking out. So I don't blame you for getting pictures and then saying, you know what, I'm out of here. Let's get out of here right now. The original poster also went on to say that they learned their lesson and they won't be doing any kind of work like that ever again for free. And I really don't blame them. Doing that much work, hours and hours of work just to try and make those photos approachable, would have been miserable just to do it on my own time and without getting any kind of payment. Because I can only imagine trying to keep my cool with some weirdo screaming at their family. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. An entitled vegan treats everybody in the restaurant I'm at like garbage. So I decide to get petty and I get revenge on this lady in the funniest way possible. Here's what happened. So I never really believed in the stereotype of the condescending, holier-than-thou vegan. I figured it was an invention of omnivores that simply like to make fun of vegans and project some kind of judgmental attitude on them. And then I met her. She came into this really solid Asian fusion restaurant that does carry out orders. She was talking to her friend, and the gist of the conversation was that she was appalled that she was even in this restaurant. The food didn't even count as vegan, since they also served meat. In fact, for the 10 minutes that I knew her, she basically had nothing nice to say about anyone or anything. It was pretty spectacular, listening to one person manage to say nothing nice for literally 10 minutes. She could have won a gold medal at the Jerk Olympics. I'd been standing in line patiently waiting to place an order, with one person in front of me. As she walked in, that person finished ordering, at which point she breezed by me like I didn't even exist. "I'd like a tofu lo mein, please." The woman behind the counter looked at me and I coughed politely. "I'm sorry, but I was here first." This elicited the biggest, most "how dare you waste my time" look in her eyes that I've ever seen, and she wordlessly stepped back. I ordered a chicken fried rice, and then she ordered her tofu lo mein, and we stepped back to wait for our food. 10 minutes later, the first order popped up, at which point this woman, mindlessly chatting with her friend about how much someone they both knew is a total jerk, swiped the order without thinking and without a thank you and stormed for the door in a desperate hurry to ruin other people's evening somewhere else. My first thought was, isn't it likely that my order finished before yours? And I almost said it. And then I realized she was storming out with a meal she really didn't want. The next meal popped up about 2 minutes later. I grabbed it knowing there was a solid chance it was the tofu, and thanked the very nice woman behind the counter, and left without stopping to open it, afraid that if I wasted a second's time, that angry shrew might have stormed back in and corrected her oversight. So as a result, I triumphantly ate a tofu lo mein back at home that night. Well, to be honest, I ate the lo mein and I picked around the tofu. I don't know if that harpy returned demanding her correct meal, or if she just got home, realized it was chicken fried rice, and threw it away dejectedly. I just hope that she felt some level of misery that she seemed to enjoy forcing on everyone else around her. Honestly, I can't stand people like that. She not only cut you in line and tried to get ahead of you, but she also rolled her eyes as if you were the problem. You were literally standing there waiting to go next, and she just waltzed in front of you acting like she's better than pretty much everybody there. And it also sounded like she didn't really want to be at this restaurant in the first place. She was complaining the entire time that it wasn't strictly vegan, and honestly just acting like a jerk, talking loudly with her friend and then some. So good for you for getting back at her even in such a petty way. I find it really funny, and you know what? Based on her attitude, the fact that you could inconvenience her even just in a small way really is just a small moral victory. My sister is trying to blame me on my father's health issues, and I'm so offended I seriously don't know what to do. For the last half a year, I've given up my apartment and my life in a huge way to help my dad while he was having some medical issues. Earlier in the year, he was in the hospital with pneumonia. He also is in the hospital to receive a pacemaker surgery. He is a widow as my mom unexpectedly passed away 2 years ago after a very brief health issue. She was younger than him, and it's been difficult on all of us. I have tried to help alleviate a lot of the burden by basically deciding to temporarily move in with him, even though in the past he has had narcissism issues and has been emotionally awful at times. I knew the situation would be temporary, and I figured it would be the best transition to eventually hire someone to help him out. My sister lives about 20 minutes away and comes over once a week, mainly just to have brunch with us. A lot of the times, she becomes very controlling and has very similar personality traits to my father. She tries to tell me what to do in regards to his care or just general house things, and tries to correct things that are not issues, even though she's around a very minimal amount of the time. This past week, my dad was back in the hospital and diagnosed with an early stage of congestive heart failure. The doctor seemed optimistic that there are things my dad can do to help alleviate this, but that it is a minimal stage. One of the big things my doctor mentioned was stress, which is something my dad tends to get a lot on his own. Today, my sister went to go see my dad in the hospital and wanted to talk to the doctor and then call me afterwards, even though I already had all of the medical information. She then sent me a bunch of messages basically telling me that we need to work on not getting him stressed out and that she knows he's part of the problem, but that I need to play a role in not getting him worked up. She basically was talking down to me as if I'm the reason that he gets stressed out, when in reality, I've been a huge part of his caretaking and helping alleviate that stress in his life. When my father and I have had arguments in the past, it's been due to him getting stressed out about something not necessary and me reacting to it and defending myself. She's had explosive arguments with him over the years, and I find it very hypocritical her talking like this. She made it sound like she's perfectly good with him and that I really need to work on my emotional reactions to him. I feel very attacked, as if she was trying to blame me for his stress levels and trying to act as if he's not the number one issue of his own stress. She was sending me a bunch of messages, so I ended up calling her and telling her that ultimately he's in control of his own stress, and I've helped alleviate a lot of it by moving in with him. She then told me that this is always what I do, and I get defensive when I get called out on something. She then sent a bunch of other messages after hanging up on me and was very holier than thou and talking down to me as if I'm not the one with him 99% of the time, when she's there 1% of the time. She was extremely hostile to me on the phone and was also incredibly rude, saying that I can't just take ownership and just agree to this. She kept sending messages, so I just stopped responding because I didn't even want to continue arguing. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel as if I'm alone in my own family, as my mom was the closest person that I had. What should I do? Honestly, it really does sound like your sister's the problem here. She clearly has explosive arguments with her dad, and she causes a lot of problems in his life. So I really do take your side on this one. You're there 99% of the time, and she shows up every now and then for brunch. I mean, how can she possibly understand the nuance of what he's going through? It also doesn't help the fact that she is clearly in denial. Like, okay, she wants to try and claim she knows what's best for her dad. Maybe she should step up more and try and do more around the apartment. And that might even be a good solution to really see what she's all about. Maybe suggest and be like, okay, I've had my turn of helping dad out. How about I get my own apartment and you move in with him? And you can bet that her response to that would probably be to just not want to do that, because it doesn't sound like she actually wants to be involved in her dad's situation, but instead it really sounds like she wants to boss you and her dad around. And in my opinion, that is so unfair. My boss tries to micromanage me at work, so I decide to maliciously comply, and as a result, he gets in more trouble than he ever thought possible. Here's what happened. So this happened at work about 10 years ago. For some context, at the time of this incident, I had been working for a big box superstore for about 12 years, 5 of which as a department manager. I managed 3 areas: fresh meat, frozen seafood, and prepackaged deli, as well as breakfast meals. I supervised 2 part-timers and 2 full-timers. I reported to 3 supervisors, ranking in order of the assistant manager, a co-manager, manager, and then the store manager. So on one particular Thursday morning, it was just myself and one of my full-timers. We'll call him Carl. Carl is not his real name. Carl was on duty until 3 o'clock p.m., myself until 4 p.m., and no one else after that. My other full-timer was on his day off. One part-timer was not available Thursday through Saturday, and the other was on vacation. Coverage was thin at best and would continue to be that way through the weekend. Having been super light on coverage all week due to one of my guys being on vacation, the deli wall was looking a little thin. On this Thursday morning, I had to decide how best to prepare for the weekend. I knew that I would not have enough staff to commit a person to filling the deli wall on Friday or Saturday. As soon as I had finished breaking down Thursday morning's delivery with Carl, I began busting my butt to get the deli wall as full as possible before I left that day. That way I could have the guys focus on the fresh meat wall throughout the weekend, where I knew it would be super busy. While I did this, I entrusted Carl to fill the fresh meat wall for Thursday night's 4 p.m. rush. He was a very hard worker despite his age and health. I knew he could handle it on his own. Around 11 o'clock a.m., Carl had to take his lunch break, and while he was gone, my co-manager by the name of Scott, also not their real name, arrives to work and sees only me, and I'm filling the deli wall while only half of the fresh meat wall had been stocked thus far. Scott does not like this. He tells my assistant manager to have me swap the fresh meat wall as it's more important for that night's customers. I immediately seek out Scott to tell him why this was a bad idea, as well as why I am filling up the deli walls and not the fresh meats. But Scott doesn't care. He doesn't want to hear what I have to say. I am to do exactly as I am told. He does not want me to fill the deli wall, only the fresh meat wall. Did I mention that Scott is ex-military and still acts like he's enlisted? It's really annoying and it's really frustrating. So I decided to maliciously comply. I did exactly as Scott told me. After having only worked about an hour on the deli wall, I put all the freight back into the cooler and began filling up the fresh wall. Carl returned from lunch, confused to see me. I explained what had happened before taking my own lunch. Upon my return, the fresh wall was nearly finished, but I went ahead and helped Carl finish filling it. Soon, we were done and just topping it off throughout the rest of the afternoon. If someone bought a pack of beef, we both went back into the cooler to bring out another one. Same with the chicken, the pork, anything. We walked back and forth one package at a time, all the way up until Carl left at 3 p.m. and then I left at 4 p.m. As I walked past the deli wall on my way out, it already was looking so much worse than it had when I first arrived that morning. When I arrived at work at 7 in the morning on Friday morning, the first thing I did was walk past that deli wall. I was completely caught off guard to see that it had been filled. As I'm theorizing who could have possibly filled it, the assistant manager comes by and sees the puzzled look on my face. She comes over to me with a bit of a grin on her face, and the following is what she had told me had happened after I left the night before. Essentially, more and more of the wall emptied out as people shopped. It began to look like people were panic buying food. It had gotten that empty. Around 8 o'clock p.m., a market manager came in to do his own shopping, and I did not explain this before, but a market manager is who my store manager reports to. In other words, someone who has even greater authority than anyone in the store. The market manager goes to buy some lunch meat, and lo and behold, there's almost nothing on the shelf. He notices the entire wall is nearly bare, and he is furious. He then demands that Scott comes over to the deli wall immediately, and it was right about then that Scott gets over to the wall and gets chewed out. The market manager then orders Scott to get the wall stocked immediately. Scott is only now understanding the scope of his blunder. The wall is so empty that it will take a few hours to fill, and it is in this moment that Scott realizes how hard he messed up because he didn't check the schedule earlier and is now discovering that there is no one in the meat department that evening. So there is no one that he can delegate this task to. So guess who ended up having to fill the deli wall? That's right, Scott had no choice but to do it himself, and he didn't even get done until midnight. Remember, he had arrived just before 11 o'clock that same day, and he had to be back at 8 o'clock in the morning on Friday. Also, Scott is salaried, so he got no overtime for the extra hours worked. And by the way, Scott never did apologize for me for not trusting my judgment and for not listening to me, but he definitely learned his lesson. From that day forward, he did not try to micromanage me, and he just let me run my department unimpeded. That is honestly a funny story, and you know what? Scott got exactly what he deserved. If he just let the guy who runs this section do his thing, he would have had no problem with this being filled up, and he himself would not have had to do it in front of the guy over the entire store. I mean, how funny is that? It really drives me crazy when someone tries to micromanage me over something they have no idea about. So good for the original poster for maliciously complying, and hopefully Scott will stay out of your business in the future. Am I the jerk for saying that I'll be driving myself myself, as well as paying for my own room on an upcoming family vacation just so I won't have to be forced to babysit my nephews. Here's what happened. So I was repeatedly stuck playing the part of helper and babysitter on family outings. I had to move out of my parents' house because I kept being forced to help watch my 3 nephews. Last year, we took a family vacation in the summer to the coast. I rode along with my parents and they paid for my hotel room. Only I had to share that room with 3 rowdy boys because my sister and her husband wanted a room to themselves. I was promised time to do my own things on my vacation, but instead, I ended up having to help with these kids. I complained to everyone about it and was reminded I was there for free. And then we pretty much just did only one thing I wanted to do, which was to take a tour of an art gallery. I really enjoy doing this because I'm at the coast, but the kids found it very boring. This year, my parents have a trip to the beach planned in June, and they assumed that I'd be riding along the same way as last year, but I refused. I said I'd be driving myself and paying for my own hotel stay to have my own room, and when I said this, my parents were shocked and tried to remind me of the cost. I said it was no worries. I've got a good job and a decently running car. I can more than afford it. And it's right about then that the whatabouts came into play. So I stated the previously listed things as to why I'm driving myself and paying for myself. I want to be able to enjoy this vacation as an adult and not be treated like a child like last year. For context, I'm 23 years old. My parents told my sister, and she called to blow up at me, that I'll be ruining the vacation if I'm off doing my own thing while she has to wrangle her 3 boys. I ended up yelling at her that last year, all she did was rope me into her mess. I didn't really get to do much of anything that I wanted to do, and I was treated like the bad guy for wanting to just go to an art gallery. I'm a grown man. I deserve my own vacation too. Now my sister is not speaking to me, and my parents are still trying to convince me to just ride along with them to keep the peace, but I'm still refusing. But the pressure is honestly getting to me. So this really begs the question, am I the jerk for not giving in? I know they'll have a pretty hard time when they won't have another person there to help, but I really think I deserve my own vacation. I don't think you're the jerk at all. You want to know why your sister's upset as well as your parents? Because now they don't have a free babysitter. Like seriously, that's the only reason they want you to ride along. If you carpool with these people, not only will you not have a way of getting home, but they're also just gonna slap you with these children and force you to babysit them. And I completely agree with you. That is unfair for you and your time. Driving yourself as well as getting a hotel really does seem like a logical conclusion if you want to try and enjoy this vacation at all. And clearly the sister just needs to be a better parent. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it. Like maybe you should try to work on getting your boys in line and making them behave instead of just trying to ship it off to your sibling and being like, it's your problem now, you do it. Like, I'm sorry, that's completely inappropriate and you really should not do that to your sibling. I know for me personally, I would be very hesitant to even want to go on this vacation in the first place, because if you think the pressure is going to be bad over the phone, just wait until you're in the same area as these people. You can bet they're going to try and force these kids on you no matter what. Like seriously, these are her kids. They are her responsibility. They're not yours. And she doesn't care about the vacation in general. Your sister only cares about her vacation. She doesn't care what you're doing. She just wants to be free of those kids and not have to deal with them. That's honestly what's going on here. So if you do decide to go on this vacation, just realize there's probably going to be a lot of annoying pressure on your back. And you know what? You don't deserve that in the slightest. My entitled mother is refusing to allow me to get a new job, claiming that my current job at Amazon is the only one she will allow. And after putting up with her manipulation for so many years, as well as her horrible parenting, I have finally decided to move out and start my own life. And I will honestly be so happy to get away from her once and for all. Here's what happened. So my mom had insisted that I stay with her for my job during lockdown, as it's still going on where I live. So I did, and I regretted it, to the point that I'm losing more money than my job can pay me. I have a job at Amazon in their distribution center, and basically I sort the packages to get them to the customers. I have the night shift and it sucks. I have mental health issues, and the night shift plus the stress from my mom plus the drive made me look elsewhere for work. I found a good job that pays more, about $8 more than what I make now, and it's during the daytime, so that's a bit better. But honestly, that is where the problems start. So my current job has me driving 100 miles round trip and eats my gas and mileage like Pac-Man and his pellets. I get roughly $19 an hour, but the reason this is worse is that my mom expects me to pay her $500 a week for rent. My paycheck is roughly $760. Take away the $500 and I have $260 left. After making payments on my car, which is $180, I have $80 to pay for gas. Gas where I'm at currently is $3.98 a gallon, and I use use about $60 to fill up. So yeah, I think you can understand that I need to go somewhere else. Now, my new job, which I start 3 days after writing this, is during the day and it is remote. I can work from home as long as I have a computer of sorts, a smartphone, and the internet. The job pays more, and my mom saw my text with my grandparents about it, and well, guess who decides to tear me a new one? If your guess was my entitled mother, then you would be right. Now, my mom doesn't take care of the house, at least since I came back. I had to vacuum, fix anything that breaks, mow the lawn, cook the food, and take care of my sister. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That doesn't sound like an entitled mother. That sounds like you are being a member of the household. And trust me, I get it. But let me paint you a picture of how things actually go down in my house. For starters, mowing the lawn has to be done on Fridays between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the morning. My night shift doesn't let out until 11:50, and even then, it's a 40-minute drive if there's no traffic. With traffic, I'd be lucky to be home before 2:30, so I get chewed out for not having that done. I also can't get any sleep until I finish my chores. Now, I sleep until 5 o'clock p.m. until 11:30 p.m., so I can get enough sleep for work. She won't let me get to bed until well after 9 o'clock p.m. So on 2.5 hours of sleep, I have to drive 50 miles on a busy highway that is also under construction, mind you. I also have no personal property. I have a phone that she bought me as a 17th birthday present, and she is now handing me the bill for the phone. She bought me a brand new iPhone for like $1,000. I got a military-grade protector case and a shatterproof screen cover. She demanded that I turn off all my passwords on all of my devices that I paid for. So aside from the $500 rent, I now have to pay $1,000 for a birthday gift to me. She is also adding $50 a week for interest. My entitled mother also claims that she has to read all of my emails, all of my text messages, see all of my contacts, hear every phone call on speaker, and can use my laptop whenever she likes. I had to purchase antivirus software after I got 9 viruses on my laptop. She gets into my spam and clicks all of the links. You know, the ones where they're like, oh, you want a free iPad and stuff like that. I had to use money that I don't hardly have just to purchase antivirus software that keeps the viruses off of my system that she is causing. Any food that I buy, she will eat it instantly, claiming that it's her reward for raising me. Now, this also brings me to my Nintendo Switch that I bought and have a 5-year warranty on. She sold it to a pawn shop. I still have my login info, my credit card, my PayPal, and about $259 in gift cards and $412 in rewards points. Not to mention my 500 gigabyte micro SD card. My Switch was worth a lot, and she sold it for $50. Yes, you heard me correctly. She sold it for $50. But thank God that when they booted it up, they saw my contact information in the account settings. I got called asking why it was sold with all of that still on it, and I told them that I didn't sell it and had a warranty for another 3 years on it. Well, I thankfully got it back without any hassle. The Switch itself was my purchase. Everything else was family members sending me gift cards. Needless to say, that new job is my ticket out of here. I put in my 2 weeks notice already, so I'm ready for the new job. I can pay her ridiculous fees and save up enough to get another apartment again to get away. I'm also going to go no contact with her. Now that she sees that this new job is better paying and it's in the day when she's at her job, she's decided that I have to stay with Amazon because I can't do remote work from her house. So now I'm currently apartment hunting. I got a car, but she holds the title deed. It's her car, but I'm shelling out hundreds of dollars a month so that she doesn't have to pay for it. So to try and mitigate that situation, I got a new car without her name on it. I want to get out of this nightmare, but she's emotionally and mentally manipulative. She says that this new job isn't going to pay me this right off the bat. The paycheck is what management, HR, and I agreed upon. It's on my contract, and if they violate it, that's a hefty fine. She then tells me that those hours are fake, and once again, they're agreed upon in my contract. I will be working close to 40 hours a week. Any more and I get paid overtime. That is how it works. Now she's trying to get family members involved to get me to stay with Amazon, and they all say that she is crazy. And now I have her crazy friend group on Facebook that are also bothering me as well. So she is definitely Mother of the Year material, and I honestly absolutely hate her. That sounds like an awful living situation. Imagine living with your mom and her forcing you to pay all this ridiculous stuff, all while basically lording over you and treating you like garbage. I mean, does she not see that you're absolutely running ragged? This is really awful behavior. Thankfully, the original poster gave us an update and said that he is basically out of his mom's house and he has a new job that pays really well. He no longer works with Amazon, even though it was a little bit tricky to get out of there. So good for the original poster for getting out of that home environment. His mom sounds crazy, and the original poster is going to be so much happier and so much better off away from his crazy entitled mother. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My coworker complains that I always make a mess in the workshop and demands that I never unload my truck full of product ever again. So I maliciously comply, leaving him over 1,000 pounds worth of product for him to sort through all by himself. Here's what happened. So this happened a while ago. I had to deliver some of our company's products from one work site over to another. I usually arrive before the other employees started their work, so I figured I could unload my car already in order to save my coworkers time and for me to not be interrupted during my work later that day. Plus, I was the one who knew which products were ordered by which customer, so I didn't have to spend time on figuring out which belongs to which customer since I was the one who loaded everything into the car. So I put all the loose products for each customer from the trunk on a separate pallet, pushed it into our workplace with a pallet truck, put the delivery notices on each of them, and left them in a visible place for my coworker to move them wherever he wanted. And it's not going to require much manpower either. When he arrived and started working, I went up to him and I told him what products arrived and for which customer these were for, in order to make sure he knows about the orders as well. Since I didn't know where to put the pallets, I placed them into the workshop via the pallet truck because I didn't want these products to stay outside, and I didn't want to open up an opportunity for a passerby to steal the company's products. After I did this same procedure twice, he came up to me and gave me a 10-minute lecture about how it could possibly come to my mind to make such a big mess in the workshop. He criticized that I put the products in the wrong place, that I was messing up his storage system, and that the products fell off the pallets all the time, which is funny because it didn't happen when I used the pallet truck to bring them into the workshop. As such, he declared I'm not allowed to unload the car anymore. So after I got that lecture, I decided to maliciously comply. A week later, we received a huge order with over 2 tons worth of products. I had 560 kilograms of different products customized, but not packaged in my truck. As per his request, I didn't unload the car. At some point, he came up to me and asked me to unload the car, but my response was, no, I'll just make a huge mess in the workshop, and we don't want the products to fall off the pallets, so you should just do it yourself. His face when he realized he had to sort all of this out himself and manually unload it was quite funny. It was even better when he noticed I couldn't bring a delivery notice because the order wasn't complete yet. Thus, he had to check every single product and write down what products arrived in which quantity already. And this was all by himself. Of course, I knew the quantities, but he didn't ask me. That 5-minute task easily took him a half hour to do, and honestly, it's his own fault. Your coworker is a complete idiot. Like literally, if they had just listened and if they had just been more grateful for the work you put in, they could have avoided all of this from the get-go. Like from the sounds of it, it really seems like you had a good system going. You were sorting things accordingly, you had a good organizational idea, and it seems like you had really good communication with your coworker. So for him to be like, wow, you're making such a mess of everything, don't unload the car anymore. It's that entitled attitude that really is just so disgusting. So I don't blame you for maliciously complying. Your coworker was being dumb, and you know what? If he doesn't want you to make a mess, then he can happily unload that car all by himself. My partner is spending excessive amounts of money on a mobile game app, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I find myself in need of some advice, and this is an issue that's been growing in my relationship. My partner and I genuinely have a wonderful relationship, and he is honestly the best man I've ever known. He works at a library, which gives him quite a lot of downtime, and he spends a significant amount of that time playing mobile games. This in itself doesn't bother me. We all need our hobbies and downtime activities. The problem started a few weeks ago when he discovered a mobile puzzle game. It's a puzzle game that involves reaching a target number using 6 random numbers and basic arithmetic operations. It sounds harmless and even educational, right? Well, it escalated into something more. I noticed that he's become increasingly absorbed in this game to the point where I would classify it as an addiction. He spends hours playing it, and he started spending a considerable amount of money on in-app purchases, specifically so he could buy some coins to keep his winning streak alive. To give you a clearer picture, he's spending about $75 to $80 per week on this game. That's around $300 per month, a sum that seems quite excessive to me for a mobile game. I understand that it's his money, and he's free to spend it as he pleases. However, I'm concerned about this behavior because it seems to have grown out of control, and I see it as a red flag. I would like to discuss this with him without upsetting him or making him feel like I'm trying to control his hobbies or his spending. I mean, after all, he is a wonderful man, and I cherish our relationship. What should I do? This really does seem like a problem. I mean, $300 a month is insane. I can understand like a monthly subscription basis for like certain games online, but this is a stupid mobile game. $75 to $80 per week? Like, that is a lot of money that's gonna add up really quickly. And from what you've described, it really does kind of sound like an addiction. Like, he is actively spending a lot of money just to keep this arbitrary winning streak alive. And that is not uncommon with some of these mobile games. Some of those mobile games are seriously addictive, and they force you to spend money just so you can try and have more of a chance of getting a high score. And $300 a month definitely is excessive. And you know what? The game is literally endless. There's no way to beat those games. They just keep going and going. It is no better than going to the slots in Vegas and just spinning the wheel trying to get that one big hit. So I can totally understand how you're like, wow, this is a lot of money being spent, because I completely agree with you. But my next question is this affecting you or your relationship in the slightest? Like, is this affecting your ability to buy food or pay for bills or make rent or anything like that? If the answer is no, and this isn't affecting your quality of life, then more or less it is kind of harmless. Like, personally, I think it's a huge waste of time, and it sounds like you agree with that as well. But if this isn't dipping into anybody's like funds or their ability to make rent or anything like that, then this might just be something that he does that he really enjoys. Maybe this is just fun money that he spends on whatever he wants, and $300 a month is like nothing to him, which really is kind of baffling to me. But you know what? People spend money on all kinds of things. Maybe this just happens to be the one hobby that he really enjoys. I think whichever way you look at this, you really just need to have a conversation with him. I think expressing your worry and being like, hey, this is really concerning, and I just don't think this is healthy, or at least expressing that in some kind of way so he knows where you're coming from, might be a good thing for the both of you. And hopefully he can understand where you're coming from when it comes to spending that much money. An entitled old man insults me at my hardware store job, and I'm honestly really upset about it, and I don't know what to do. So I currently work at a hardware store where one of my duties is helping customers load their items into their car. So far, most of the customers I've dealt with have been delightful and pleasant. However, a few weeks ago, I met a gentleman who might just be the most arrogant person I've ever met. I was called upon to load some mulch into the car of an older looking gentleman. He had already bought his mulch and just needed someone to load it into his car for him. So I did just that. Him and I went to his car and started to load the mulch in. After the third bag, he said something that nearly stopped me in my tracks. I bet all this loading makes you want to go to trade school. There have been very few moments in my life where I was absolutely speechless, but that moment made me speechless. There was so much wrong with that statement. For starters, who in the world insults someone who is helping them? Talk about biting the hand that feeds them. Secondly, how does he know that I'm not going to trade school and I am now just working at this store as a part-time job for some cash? I mean, I'm not actually doing that, but the way he's talking is incredibly ignorant. I'm also not dissing trade school by any stretch, but what's wrong with just working a job to make some kind of cash? Nothing's wrong with that. In fact, it's good to work for your money, which is what I was doing. But the worst part was, as he said it, he had the biggest and most sincere smile on his face, as if he legit didn't see anything wrong with what he just said. But he kept talking. He talked about how he was retired and how he used to be super successful, but that you have to work hard at it. Is he seriously talking about hard work to someone who is loading 12 bags of mulch into his car in a 75-degree heat? All the while, he still had that stupid smile on his face, as if he thought he was helping me instead of flipping me the proverbial finger. I will admit that the situation itself made me way angrier than it should have. That is one of the few times in my life that I have felt genuinely insulted. How dare this man assume that just because I work at a hardware store, I am somehow less than him? I told my parents about this, and they agree that what he said was ignorant and arrogant. To my fellow retail workers, don't let anyone break your spirit just because you work in retail. It's hard work, but someone has to do it. You are worth it, and you are good at your job, or else your managers wouldn't be keeping you on. And to customers who treat employees well, I say thank you. You have no idea how much you're helping us. Saying thank you to an employee may seem like a small gesture, but for that employee, it might be the only thank you they get all day. Honestly, there's kind of two sides of this. I can see where the original poster's coming from, where they are pretty annoyed by what this guy was saying. Like, honestly, if I was loading stuff into someone's car in that kind of heat in the middle of the day, and they were just jabbering on, trying to make some kind of weird point nobody asked them to make, I would probably get upset as well. So don't get me wrong, I really do think that was a really rude comment to make. But there's also a possibility that this is really innocent, and maybe the old guy just didn't realize he was being incredibly rude. Like I said, don't get me wrong, what he said was very rude, but I think he might have had better intentions than you might think. Like maybe he was coming from a place where he genuinely was trying to help out. And it certainly doesn't excuse the way he was acting, but there's always a possibility that maybe it wasn't nearly as nefarious as you think. But regardless, the original poster has it right. Retail work is not easy and someone absolutely has to do it. So I would not be shaken up by these kind of comments. He is probably so far removed from the workforce nowadays, he clearly has no idea what he's talking about. So if I was in your shoes, I would just keep doing a good job and trying to make a living just like anybody else. My boyfriend of 7 years cheated on me and says that he can't be with me anymore and is refusing to make things work or try to work anything out. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I've been with my boyfriend for 7 years and we have had our ups and our downs, but we had no inklings this would happen to me as we have been so happy recently. He is close with my whole family and I am close with his. We have a holiday booked next month and plans booked in advance. We have 7 years of memories and a future to come, and I am so broken over this. He went on a golf trip with his friends and told me the hotel was empty and no one was there and that he was playing pool. He was sporadically texting me and a few hours later, he stopped replying and in the morning said that his phone was dead. Well, it turns out he met a 31-year-old woman somehow within the 30 minutes of the recent and last text message to me, had also gotten her number and was asking for her room number and saying to come to her room. I found these text messages on his phone. He spent some quality time with her that evening, as well as once more in the morning when he was clearly sober. So it was a choice and not a mistake. I kicked him out this Sunday at 11 p.m. after finding the text messages, and he didn't message me since. So on Tuesday, I had to get closure. So we met up, but he just kept saying that he can't be with me simply because of what he's doing and isn't even trying to fix it. He didn't even have much to say to me as I was bawling my eyes out. He has taken everything from me. The friend he was with also did the same and is groveling for his girlfriend and feeling absolutely awful. Why would someone switch their emotions after 7 years just to hurt someone that they loved and not even bother to try and fix it? Even if he knows I wouldn't forgive him, why isn't he trying? He's telling everyone that he's sad, but he won't ever take me back. He's not even giving me the time of day to make my own decision. What should I do? Honestly, this is really awful, and it really does seem kind of premeditated. Like who in their right mind after 7 years of being in a relationship would suddenly just drop everything that they're doing and being like, all right, sorry, I'm cheating on you. It's time for me to move on, and no, I don't want to try and fix it. Like this guy seriously is a scumbag for doing that. And he blatantly just cheated on you. He went and did his own thing and said, you know what? I'm not going to feel bad about this. Like that's really disgusting in my opinion. And it really is awful that you found out the way that you did. You clearly thought that you had something special with this guy and that you had some kind of future to account for. But he literally threw that out the window. You didn't. You didn't do anything wrong. You actually went to him and said, hey, let's try and make this work. Like what is going on here? But he was the one that decided to cut things loose and not give anything a chance. So that kind of leads me to believe that he was planning on doing this anyways. This was something he clearly had on his mind and you were just unfortunately collateral damage. That is so unfair, it's not even funny. His cheating literally has nothing to do with you. It is just a reflection of how awful of a person he is. And also, it wouldn't be a bad idea to try and get the record straight. This guy cheated on you, not the other way around, not any other type of situation. It was something that he did to you. Because you can bet from the sounds of what this guy is, he would probably try to spin this in such a way to make it seem like you're the one at fault or to make it seem like you're the reason this is a breakup. But that's not true at all. I mean, 7 years is such a long time. How could he just throw it all away in one fell swoop? So honestly, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this. It really is awful, but you know what? At least you know the kind of person he is. And now you know this is someone you absolutely do not want to be with. My entitled mother demands that I hand over my inheritance, claiming that my sister deserves it a lot more simply because she's going to college. And I'm honestly unsurprised by her entitled demeanor, and I'm seriously so done with her. Here's what happened. So first I want to start with some backstory. My parents had divorced when I was 10 years old, and I'm now 20 years old. And this all happened because my dad found out she was cheating when she told him my brother and sister, who were 7 and 8 at the time, weren't his. When asked for her reason to cheat, she said that she found a man who was able to give her the high life unlike my dad, who is a farmer just trying to do his best to maintain a family while managing my grandfather's farm. When discussing custody over me in court, my mom said she wanted nothing to do with me and left my dad with full custody while she took my brother and sister with her and then married her side piece a month after everything was finalized. Of course, with the rise of social media, she only includes me in family photos to make herself look good, even though she tosses me to the side afterwards. I don't even have a relationship with my siblings because they look down on me for really petty reasons. So anyways, it was about 7:30 in the morning and I was having a jam session when my dad came out to the feedlot to tell me someone was here to see me. I asked him who it was, but I didn't need him to answer me once I saw the angry look on his face as he throws a cigarette that he failed to light. I hop off the tractor and go walking around the farmyard until I spotted a brand new Porsche with my mother sitting in the driver's seat. To properly describe what she looks like, imagine someone did an awful job doing a James Charles or Jeffree Star heavy makeup routine all at the same time. She has a Karen haircut with the blondest of highlights and a spray tan that would make Donald Trump look pale. I often wonder if she'll ever do a face reveal just so the world could see the hunk of Swiss cheese under all of that makeup. I walk up to her car and very politely say hello before she wrinkles her nose and looks at me in disgust. "Don't you have anything better to wear besides those filthy rags? And take that wad of chewing tobacco out of your mouth. Honestly, I'm embarrassed that you're my son looking like that." I respond to her by saying, "These are my work clothes, and I was working. I just put this chew in and it's not even kicked in yet. Besides, what do you want?" She looks me up and down with a disgusted look again before taking a deep breath before speaking. "I need to ask you a favor. In fact, it's rather important." The only thought going through my head was, well, she's a part of a cult and she needs a blood sacrifice at tonight's meeting. I ask her what it is and she says to me, "See, your sister is going to be graduating this year, and I think it would only be fair that you gave her the money your grandfather left you, since you obviously don't need it." I now know exactly what she's after. My grandfather put aside $25,000 for each grandchild that once they turn 18, they can use to go to college, buy a car, whatever they want. The only catch was that you needed to either graduate high school or obtain a GED. Now, why would she be wanting this money, you might be asking? Well, I'll tell ya. She had asked my grandpa after the divorce that not only should her kids, my brother and sister, still get the money, but also he needed to beef it up a few grand. My grandpa, out of spite, took the money originally meant for them and put it all in mine, and told her that only his actual grandkids get the money. A few years later, when he passed away, my dad had added some of his inheritance into it, so when I graduated, I actually ended up with $93,000. I have since spent about $27,000 of it on a tractor and put the rest into my savings, where I add onto it every paycheck. I look at her and I say, "Why would I give you any of my money? My sister doesn't even speak to me anymore." My entitled mother then says, "Because it would only be fair since your grandfather denied her that money that she deserves, and she's actually going to be attending college unlike you. Plus, as her big brother, you need to be responsible." I respond back and I say, "That money was left to me for me to use as I wish. Besides, if she wants it, she needs to ask me herself instead of you telling me what to do." "She doesn't need to ask you. In fact, I shouldn't even be asking you either. But since your grandfather was such a jerk and you weren't caring enough to hand it over before, well, here I am." And when she said that, I was seriously amazed. I responded back by saying, "Aren't you guys paying for her college? Why would I have to give her any money as well?" She goes on to explain that they're paying for the tuition and housing, but she'll need spending money, while also stating that she shouldn't have to work a low-level job just to have money for fun. But that's when I said, well, why don't you just give her spending money? But apparently my entitled mother couldn't do that because she was already spending a lot on college because she called it expensive. She then asked me, "Won't you just do this for her?" I respond by saying, "No, I won't. And since when has something been too expensive for you? Just make your side piece work harder like you did in the past when you wanted something big and flashy." My entitled mother then said, "How dare you speak to me like that? I'm your mother and you should be grateful I gave birth to you. Even just a little bit will help." But when she said that just a little bit will help, an awesome idea came to my mind. I then falsely apologized to her and said that she was right. I should give her something. I then told her I'm going to run back to my truck and grab my checkbook, and off I went. Once I was at my truck, I proceeded to dig through the cup holders for pennies, since every little bit helps, right? Once I've gathered about 20 or so pennies, I walk back, tell her to hold out her hand, and I drop pennies in them with a smile. She looks at me and says, "What is this?" I respond by saying, "You said a little bit could help a lot, didn't you? So I thought you could have just that." My entitled mother then said, "This isn't what I meant. A few thousand is more of what I had in mind." She then throws the pennies back at me in a rage as she started to blare her horn, screaming at the top of her lungs that I give her what she asked for. Honestly, where's a Pokeball when you need one? Because this one needs to be trained professionally on how to act. I'm just standing there watching her go on like this as she's demanding money and calling me everything under the sun when she finally goes quiet as I hear my dad yell out from somewhere in the distance. He screams and tells her to shut up. Taking this moment, I look back at her and I say to her, you never did say thank you, did you? My entitled mother then swears at me. She says, you will give your sister what she deserves. But I responded back by saying, when you do a face reveal, I'll happily do it. She then cursed at me a little bit more, got back in her car, and sped off. And thankfully, that was the end. Your mom sounds crazy. First off, she's obviously loaded. I mean, she's rolling up in a brand new Porsche, and she's like, oh, honey, can you give me money? Like, she's an awful parent. From the get-go, she said she didn't want anything to do with you. She took your siblings and she ran off. You've worked hard for everything in your life, and you were given that inheritance because your grandfather obviously liked you. And it's not to say that he probably didn't like your siblings as well, but your mom clearly ruined that for them in the first place. But the way the original poster handled this was absolutely genius. He put his entitled mom in her place. Like, seriously, in retrospect, what was she actually thinking was gonna happen? Did she really think that you were just gonna give her this money outright and say, yeah, you're right, mom, here you go? Like, no, that's not how this is gonna work at all. If his stupid entitled sister wants to have any kind of money during college, she can get a job like the rest of us who have gone to college. Like, why was it suddenly the original poster's job to pay for this sister's education? Like, this entitled mom seriously sounds unhinged, and hopefully for the sake of the original poster and their own happiness, they never have to deal with this lady ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My work refuses to pay for anything over $60 on our expense reports, so I decide to maliciously comply, forcing them to pay much more money than they ever expected. Here's what happened. So I was on an off-site short-term project, coming from one of the cheapest to live in countries in Europe and staying for months in Singapore, which is the project location. I had found some places that I could eat for pretty cheap, and the food was good and within my taste palette. We were getting about $60 per day for food expenses, but I was spending somewhere between $25 to $30 on average, with the highest ever getting to just under $50. The short-term project eventually gets drawn out over 10 months, and our customer's client is raising a ton of issues. I discussed this a few times with some of the guys in my company, and a manager told me to take the client out for a dinner and some drinks. He would confirm the extra expense and told us not to go too much overboard on the expenses. I specifically asked what that means, and he told me not to go over $200 to $250. We go out, and neither me nor the client really drink much, so we ended up having some food and a drink each of us. The guys at the restaurant know me well by that point, and almost always do some rounding on the bill, or bring something extra to the table on the house, and with them bringing plenty of finger food, I end up with a bill that's $60.68. And sure, it's about 70 cents above our daily limit, but way below the $200+ allowance for just that. At the end of the month, I send the report in and put a special note for that specific day. The expense report goes through my company with no problems, but the customer flags that receipt up as not acceptable and not to be covered. They put me in direct communication with the customer and I explain what's going on, but nope, that's not accepted. It's not gonna be covered. I talk again with my company and tell them the situation, and I stated that the manager advised me to do so, as well as mention that he would confirm, but unfortunately the guy is out sick with COVID and will not be returning for at least 2 weeks. The customer must have this settled by the 15th of the month, and he wants to hear specifically from the manager that I was advised to act in such a way and that I was approved by that manager, and that's the only way they would cover it. And at this point, this is getting crazy and out of hand, so my boss, who's the owner of the company, just covers it from his side. The full bill, not just the 68 cents. The customer says no receipt that goes over the $60 limit will be approved. Unfortunately for me, the customer is also local to Singapore, and he randomly drops in at the job site, and I get to see him the day after the supposed resolution, as well as all the comments that were written in emails between the two of us. Face to face, I tell him, you do realize that I spend on average less than $27 a day from the allowed $60 a day, and that this was laughable to be denied. He probably was offended, and he yells at me again, saying, no receipts over $60 will be covered. Well, cue my malicious compliance. At all 3 places that I eat every day for the past 10 months, they agree to print $60 receipts every time I eat at their place. They even agree to split in half the remaining value between me and a tip to the server. I had requested for the entire amounts to go to the servers as tips, as I just just cared for the petty revenge. But apparently all of them felt a 100% tip every day is uncomfortable for them, so they didn't do it. The next month expense report is sent out and the customer calls me directly, seething with rage, and asks why every single daily receipt is $60 from a specific date onwards. I just reply by saying, well, no receipts over $60 will be covered, so I have to fit my meals within the allowance. He called to complain to my company, but the relevant person told him that they didn't understand and to please explain what agreement was broken. He then never came back as far as I know. I continued to charge the maximum amount for the remaining 2 months that I was there, netting me a cool $700 while also receiving better service, better food, and chef compliments that were otherwise only internal to the staffs of the restaurants. To be honest, I had to pay and having to deal with the idiot customer even more after that, but he was a handful before it as well. So he honestly had this coming and it literally is his own fault. That is a hilarious way to get some revenge. Good lord. You went out of your way to make sure you charged to the maximum degree, thus costing this guy a lot of money. I personally would have done the same thing. The fact that they didn't approve that 68 cents is really ridiculous. Like, come on, you've got to be kidding me. So you know what? If that guy wanted to play hardball, well, it looks like the original poster could play that just a little bit better. My company refuses to allow us to use our work phone when we're not off the clock. So my coworkers and I maliciously comply, and as a result, the entire office is in disarray as customer complaints just keep piling higher and higher. And this is nobody's fault except for the managers. Here's what happened. So the job I do requires a ton of communication, as well as coordination, and often a lot of these things are very time sensitive. So often, if one of us can't get a hold of someone, we are absolutely in trouble. So it has been the norm for us to communicate in advance so we can properly plan out our day. It was never a big deal to us, as it usually just took about 5 to 10 minutes just to confirm everything is going as planned or be informed of any changes a few hours before we start the day. This is more to make our life and work easier for everybody. About 2 months ago, the company decided that we aren't allowed to use our work phones unless on the clock. They cracked down on everyone who did it aggressively. The supervisors and managers would even call or send a text message to employees when they weren't on the clock just to test us. And anyone who would reply would be written up. No matter how much we complained, they refused to budge or listen at all. They get the final saying. Grudgingly, we all agreed to follow the policy. And no surprise at all, everyone just decided to stop replying on their phone as soon as their shift was over. Well, surprise, surprise, nearly everybody has been late pretty much every day. A lot of appointments have been missed. Tons of mistakes have been made because nobody was able to get the answer they needed. Clients start to complain like crazy. The office and managers were immediately slammed with tons of phone calls and getting very behind on everything. This week, we all were hauled out into a meeting. They were asking us what they can do to fix this mess. And we are all very upset about this whole thing as well, as it wasn't a fun time for any of us. Most of us just basically told them that we warned them repeatedly and they weren't having it. So you know what? They can clean this mess up. They tried to suggest a special code so we know that it's extremely urgent, but no one wants to carry their personal phone and work phone around all the time just in case for that. In fact, most of us told them that we just turn the phone off or put it on mute as soon as we get home. They tried to float the idea of making all of us salary employees, which was immediately shot down as they have a horrible history of overworking their salary workers. They tried to ask us if we were willing to go back to the old way, but it didn't go well because there was a mixed reaction. Some were really cool with the idea, but some of them were like, absolutely not unless I'm getting paid for that time. And some just flat out don't want to deal with the phone when they aren't on the clock at all. The meeting ended without anything being fixed. Now the CEO and HR, as well as the upper managers, have been pulling their hair out trying to figure out how to navigate this delicate mess up. It was so glorious to watch them running into the wall repeatedly over a stupid adjustment that nobody wanted. This is the classic case of if it's not broken, why are you trying to fix it? Like seriously, they had a system down. They knew exactly what they were doing and they knew what worked. So there's no reason for anyone to try and upset the apple cart. Like what is going on here? Everybody should have just left these people alone and let them figure this out on their own. But instead they decided to be weird about it, and as a result they're gonna have a lot of trouble trying to get this fixed. So this is truly management's fault. They are clearly awful leaders, and they quite literally brought all of this onto themselves. My mom keeps trying to rent out my spare room in my house to some of her friends, and it's honestly obnoxious and I seriously don't know what to do. So this happened about 18 months ago, but I only just remembered it when I came across a similar story on TikTok. Basically, I began began living above a pub that I own. It has a large 2-room living room connected via an archway and a curtain across it. My youngest sister and her friends began staying in one of the living rooms that had the privacy of the curtain, and my office was the other living room. This flat also had 2 large bedrooms. Mine is the biggest. My mother was helping me set up the pub since I had also gone back to university a year prior. My mother hired a chef who lived on an island nearby, who had also been her friends for years way back, but I had personally never met him. She had offered him a job here because he had been looking to move back home. Then all of a sudden she tells me he'll be staying in the second bedroom for a while until he gets a place sorted. Now, I hated the idea and I tried to protest a lot because I did not want a strange man living with me. And this was the first place that I had to myself, and I hoped to be able to enjoy it on my own. My mother mentioned that it would only be for a little while, a couple of months at max. It didn't matter anyways because the guy just ran away. My mother's best friend, who had helped me sort the pub out a lot and I had known for years, was also in between places at this point, so after the first guy left, I suggested that she move her stuff, and she said it would only be for a month while she finds somewhere else. So I said no worries, and she moved her stuff in. Then it turned out my mother's other best friend also started to need a place to live because he didn't want to live at home with his parents anymore. So my mom invited him to live in my flat. When she told me this, I questioned where he would even stay. She replied by saying, "He'll have your room and you can stay in that living room with the curtain, and then when he moves out, my other best friend will move into that room and you'll get your room back." When I responded I didn't really know this best friend that well, my mother responded by saying, "Oh, it's only until he gets a place. It'll be about 6 months." Whenever I pushed or said I didn't feel comfortable with that, or I wasn't going to give up my room, she would get annoyed and says that she's just trying to help her friend out. That Christmas, the first best friend stuff was still there, but she wasn't there at all. She had her own place, but she just left a lot of her stuff here for a while. My sister came back from university for the holidays, and at that time, we were discussing that in the summer breaks, she should live here too. And also, my youngest sister was still living in the living room with her friends too. Then my mother said, "Since my first best friend has a place now, the second best friend can move in." So I replied by saying that my sister is living here, but that means that my mom had a spare room, so why can't her friend live with her? Her response was, "I don't want them living with me. I like my space." I replied to her by saying, "Well, you know him better than I do, so I don't want him living with me either." She responded that he was desperate for a place to stay, and mentally it's taking a toll on him, so I replied again that he should maybe just live with her then. She actually got angry because she said that she was just trying to help her friend out. He never ended up moving in, thankfully, but it felt like my mother was always offering my spare room up to anyone that walked by. My boyfriend actually put a lock on all the doors on the inside just for safety when the first guy stayed for a week. And just to further clarify, I live on my own, and as of today, none of her friends live with me and I have the place to myself now. She doesn't work at the pub anymore, and now that I have my own place and the pub, I've stood my ground a lot more, and I say no a lot more than I normally did. I don't get guilt-tripped anymore, and everything is good. My mother and I get along a lot better now that we have our own separate lives. Also, my mother doesn't take no for an answer. She will guilt-trip you until she gets her way, and she'll say to you that you just need to trust her, or she'll just straight up get angrier with you. So before you ask, it is a lot easier said than done to just deny any of her requests. But I'm honestly glad this is resolved, and I'm seriously glad that I have my place to myself. That sounded absolutely obnoxious. Imagine living in your own apartment, and your mom's just like, "Oh, guess what? My friend's gonna live there with you," despite the fact that she has no claim over your apartment, while also trying to call the shots on who can and cannot live in your space. Like, I'm sorry, no, that's not how this works. You don't get to decide who lives in my house and who gets to stay there. But thankfully, it sounds like the original poster was able to get their place back, because honestly, it's their place, and they shouldn't have to have somebody else trying to dictate who does and doesn't live there. My entitled mother gives permission to my uncle and his kids to straight up go into my room and rob me of $12,000 worth of personal property, simply because they couldn't afford it. But once they all got caught red-handed, my mom has walked out on my life and is blaming me for trying to defend my property. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I did really well in school, and because of that, my parents decided to throw a party for my friends and close relatives and cousins. And this party was at home only. Many of my cousins, grandparents, best friends, my uncles, and my aunts, all of them were there. Now, I'm a person person who you would call a fashion freak, and I like to keep a wide variety of watches, accessories, and shoes to match with my clothes. My accessories, except for my watches, are not that expensive, but my watches definitely are. They are quite expensive for someone my age and even older than me, but most of them are gifts or prizes from tournaments that I play in. And it's right about now that my uncle enters the picture. My uncle is not really well off, as he decided to have a large family, and by that I mean literally having 8 kids. He also lives in an area where there is a high cost of living, and often he asks for money from his brothers, even though he never returns it, but it's never really any large amounts. Now, most of the kids are younger than me and they are quite well behaved, but the 2 oldest, the 18-year-old and the 16-year-old, are totally crazy. I did not want to invite these 2, but I had to. So during the party, my older cousin asked me where the washroom is, and this was odd because this wasn't the first time he was there, but I told him the directions anyways, with my room being on the way to the bathroom. As a side note, I live in my room, and I have all of my things out. My watches, my chains, my rings, my shoes, you name it. I mean, I am an only kid, and no one usually enters my room besides like my parents or something like that. After some time, I saw my uncle and one of his kids going towards that direction of the bathroom, and this was extremely odd. So I followed behind them and I saw something that I never wanted to see. They had entered my room and were going through my stuff. I took my phone out and I started recording from a small opening in my door, and then I went to my party as if nothing was happening. After a few hours, when it was only immediate family and all of my friends had left, I noticed my uncle and his 2 kids were getting really uncomfortable and really quiet, and it seemed like they wanted to leave early for obvious reasons. They started to gather their things when I stopped them and asked them to straight up return my things. They act like any foolish person would, and they start to act like they don't know anything, and they accuse me of lying. I then showed them the recording, and I said that I had already sent it to everyone there, and I just needed to switch on the Wi-Fi for it to get uploaded. But still, they lied, so I did what a bad person would do. I sent everyone the video, and after a few minutes, they were crying, shouting, and cursing. Even after I sent proof to everybody around me, they still refused to give them back, saying that they needed them, and that we could just throw around some money and get it back no problem. With all the chaos going on, I noticed that their pockets were empty, but that's when I suspected they put it in my cousin's handbag. I snatched it from him and dropped all the stuff on the floor, and there was almost $12,000 worth of accessories like watches, rings, bracelets, and chains. This cousin then got mad at me and tried to actually gather the stuff up, but her younger sister stopped her. I quickly picked up all my stuff, and I went to keep them in my room, and I locked the room from the outside. By this point, those 3 had become furious and were crying as they left the house. Now, my aunt had been apologizing, but it wasn't her fault, so I can't accept that apology. Surprisingly, everybody was on my side about this, but my mother actually had the gall to say that it was really wrong of me to snatch the purse out of her hand and take out all the stuff and go through it, as girls have personal stuff in there as well. Now, I don't think I did anything wrong, as my stuff was more precious to me than someone else's dignity in the family. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update to what happened in this story. Here's what they had to say. First of all, I want to thank everybody for all the suggestions and the support towards me. This all happened about a week ago, but I decided to upload this about a day ago. But in this 1-day span, a lot happened. As I told, my uncle's family used to get financial support from my family, mainly my grandparents. They decided to stop the assistance and revealed that they had already given upwards of $24,000 every year for the past 7 years. It also got revealed that my mother was also giving a lot of money to them, which she used to take out of her joint account with her husband. My mother has been staying with them for the past 5 days and said that my cousin needed emotional support after what I did to her, and the hate comments she is getting from the other family members is uncalled for. My mother has also taken out more than $4,000 in these past few days. My dad has blocked her cards and bank account access yesterday, and all those 3 and my mom had been spamming my grandparents' phone and claiming them to be horrible people and would be the reason if something happens to his kids because of us. My dad has arranged me for a new apartment about 2 hours away from here, which would also be really close to my university and my friends. Now, this is the part which really breaks me. In the past few years, a lot of my stuff has gone missing. It started with books and toys and some expensive stationery items, mostly paints and sketchbooks. I love to draw and sketch, stuff like that. But I just shrugged them off, as I might have missed them in school or at a friend's house or something. Then it was shoes and even my favorite clothes. And at this point, we had changed a lot of things around in the house, but then even my phone went missing during a party, and it was still unknown to me as to where it went. But yesterday, when my aunt came home to apologize for everything, she revealed that my mom had been giving my stuff to my cousins since they liked those things and they couldn't afford it. And when I heard this, I was absolutely devastated. And I knew right then that it was my mom who gave them permission to take my stuff. And I'm honestly so devastated by that. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. That really is an awful situation. Your mom has been stealing from you behind your back. Your cousins and your uncle went through all of your stuff, all under the guise of saying, oh yeah, we're allowed to do this. And then you're left feeling guilty for defending your property. This is not only your uncle's fault, but also your mother's fault. I mean, what was she thinking? She was literally just giving away money left and right, and she was also basically giving other people permission to rob you. And this has apparently been going on for a long time. Like, that's crazy to me. And that's so unfair for you. But I mean, look at the way your mom is acting. She literally ran off to live with these people. Her priorities are clearly messed up, and it doesn't sound like she was very caring in the first place. And in my opinion, actions speak a lot louder than words. So personally, if I was in your shoes, I would not feel bad about trying to keep my stuff in my house. If someone came into my room and was trying to straight up rob me, you better believe I would be taking it back. There's no way I would let that slide. So hopefully for the sake of your family, your mom can see the error of her ways, and she can hopefully one day see that what she was doing is incredibly toxic. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My entitled boss tries to punish me by reducing my hours at work simply because I was working too much. But they failed to mention this to my other boss, resulting in them having to handle my entire workload while I was off of work. And I've never been happier to be away from a job I've ever worked in my life. Here's what happened. So I was working remotely for a staffing agency, organizing and managing events. When I was initially hired on, it was due to the fact that 3 employees were quitting. They all seemed to be leaving amicably to pursue other ventures, so I didn't really think anything of it. They had hired myself and one other person to replace them, and everything was going fine. Over time, I started to notice little things here and there, like issues due to miscommunication between the owners and a heavy workload. A few months in, I was assaulted, and I had been injured pretty badly. It was really difficult, obviously, but I worked remotely, so I was still able to work. I told my bosses I had an emergency and I was injured, and I needed to take time off. Almost immediately, one of the owners called me and left an angry sounding voicemail. I called him back and ended up having to tell him that I had been assaulted, and I went to the hospital and all of that. He seemed sympathetic, but near the end of the conversation, he noted that I was supposed to be managing an event that weekend, and that they had no one else to manage it. He didn't do any of that, but his wife did. However, we always had at least 5 events we were organizing and managing at a time. I was afraid I was going to get fired, so I ended up having to go to work that weekend. It wasn't so bad, but I was in an intense amount of pain, and due to my injuries, the doctor said they couldn't prescribe me any strong medication due to complications that may arise. I worked that weekend and I pushed through. Shortly after that, they fired another employee and gave me her workload. Then they chose me to do another very long-running event that was taking place in 2 different time zones over the next 2 months. They initially decided the event would be split between myself and another employee, and this is due to the size of the program. So while I was dealing with the assault and healing, which by the way, it took 1 month for my injuries to heal, I also was doing the majority of the workload for this event. I was also having to plan a move, put my stuff in a storage unit, and living in a long-term sublet while looking for a place. I was also organizing other events on top of that, so there were days where I would easily work 10+ hours. Eventually, the employee who was helping me went on maternity leave, so the whole program landed on my shoulders. One day, I got reprimanded for working overtime. I explained that the workload was heavy, and since I was managing events in 2 time zones, I was having to wake up super early in the morning and work during the day, take a long lunch, and work some more. Then I would wrap up the other event, which ended in the evening. So to give you a total, I was waking up at 4 in the morning, and I was ending my day at 11 o'clock p.m. They basically told me I needed to manage my time better. Well, I was not doing well mentally or physically, so my cognitive abilities weren't the best. I was making small and easily fixable mistakes here and there, but nothing that was damaging or severely detrimental to the business. There were days I would just sit there and cry at my desk. It was awful. Another employee had also been reprimanded for working overtime, and she was just as swamped as I was. Eventually, one of my bosses emailed me and said I was still working too much overtime, and that he wanted me to only work 5 hours on days where I wasn't managing the big event. Now, when I got that, I was relieved, honestly. Seriously, I was looking forward to having more time for myself so I could heal. I made sure to email him back to confirm the non-show management days he wanted me to work 5 hours for the following week. Well, he didn't tell the other owner, his wife, about my new hours, and she had a tendency to ramble about stuff during meetings, making them last way longer than they needed to be. One day we had a meeting in the morning that lasted 3 hours, and it was the first day I was only supposed to work 5 hours. I didn't even need to be in that meeting, but they forced me to stay and would get irritated if they knew myself or other employees were quietly working while listening to the meeting. After the meeting, the wife owner sends me messages on asking the progress of some of the things I was working on. She then added more things for me to do. The back and forth with her took about 20 minutes. I told her that I knew I wouldn't have enough time to finish those things that day because I only had a little over an hour and a half to complete the tasks that I had already been assigned. Now, when I said that, she had no idea what I was talking about. So I told her that her husband had reduced my hours on non-management days, and I forwarded her the email exchanges where he confirmed I was only to work 5 hours on that day. She got an attitude with me and said, "Well, these are high priority things, and we need you to work on them. You can go ahead and work longer today." So I told her I couldn't do that because I confirmed a week prior and made arrangements, and I was not able to work at that time. So once I hit my 5 hours, I clocked out, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I was ignoring all the messages that she was sending me. She ended up having to work on all the tasks that she had given me, even late into the evening. I continued to follow the new schedule, and they just dumped my workload onto other employees, or they had to do it themselves. Here's the kicker though. Eventually, I got fired because they said that was basically the last straw, or whatever that means. But I was so relieved, and I also got unemployment benefits, even though they tried to fight me on it. Honestly, the first big red flag is the fact that 3 people were quitting, and they were only hiring 2 people to handle the workload. That is the obvious mark of owners that don't know what they're doing. Also, the fact that it's a husband-wife combo is the worst thing in the world. I've dealt with that in the past, and let me tell you something, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And this was clearly the case. I mean, these people were seriously morons. You really want to have 2 people handle 3 people's jobs? I mean, everybody there sounded like they were under a lot of stress. And this is all because of the management and the people who own this company mismanaging everything. And seriously, you work from 4 in the morning all the way until 11 o'clock at night? No thank you. Absolutely not. That is so inappropriate and so toxic. There's no way I would put up with that in the slightest, and I would tell them to go kick sand if they didn't like the fact that I had overtime. So seriously, getting fired from that place was probably the best thing you could possibly do, because not only did you get unemployment out of them, but also you got away from an incredibly toxic job who clearly did not care about you in the slightest. The guy I've been dating had a fight 3 months into our relationship, and the end result has left me feeling really brokenhearted as well as unsure about our relationship, and I seriously don't know what to do. So last weekend, I went on a short trip to Vegas with this guy I've been dating for around 3 months. We are dating exclusively, and things have been going very well. I believe we are both really into each other, although we're not officially boyfriend and girlfriend, but it feels like we're heading down that path. We have had a few little fights here and there, but this fight over the weekend left me feeling extremely hurt and unable to recover, and I don't know what to do now. In total, we had 2 fights over the trip. For the first fight, while we were in bed, I asked whether he gets influenced by some of the guys he hangs around with who are social and well connected, but they cheat on their partners. I don't want to go into details, but he basically said he enjoys hanging out with them in the club and they attract pretty girls to the tables. And if it was a game or a competition to see how many girls he could pick up, he might be the type to win. However, it's not in his nature to try and do that. This made me very upset. And basically, this is how the first fight broke out, because I felt like he did not validate my feelings or help me in any way feel better about being with him. The second fight was on day 2, and his guy friend messaged him about meeting up in Vegas. The guy friend said he was there with his family and a family friend and asked who my boy was with. He asked me how he should reply and if he should say female friend back. Immediately, I felt really annoyed, and I replied by saying, "Well, it's your phone. You should reply how you want to." 5 minutes later, I asked him how he responded, and he said he used female friend to describe me. I then became noticeably upset in the casino, and he said, "Let's go back to the room. I think we need to talk." And I could sense that he was fuming. Once we returned to the room, I tearily asked him, "Why did you have to call me your female friend? When you were upset about me meeting a guy friend, I told him I had been dating this guy and we were going to Vegas soon too." He then exploded at me. He yelled, "What do you want me to say? You're not my girlfriend. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. It's been fun and this is the end of us. I then sat dumbfounded, trying to process what had happened. Eventually, we decided to move past this and salvage the rest of the trip and just decided not to talk about this heavy topic anymore. So we just hugged it out and decided to be positive over the rest of the trip and become sweet again. After I got home, I'm still feeling hurt of what he said when he was yelling and fighting with me. I feel there is a needle in my heart now, and I don't know if I can ever feel safe opening up to him ever again. What should I do? There's a lot of red flags on both sides of this. First off, if you really have some kind of problem with what he said, you need to tell him in the moment. Passive-aggressive comments, in my opinion, like that of, oh, it's your phone, do whatever you want. That is honestly very immature, and it just does not communicate at all. Like, both of you are in your 30s. You need to communicate with each other and explain your needs and your wants. And if you want him to say, oh, Sam, your girlfriend, or something like that, since you described him as your boyfriend, then you need to say that. You can't assume that he's gonna do that and then get upset that he didn't catch on to your assumption. But also the fact that he would start screaming at you and immediately say, I'm done, I can't take this anymore, especially over something as small as this, is really, really weird to me. Like, there's no reason to freak out. There's literally nothing to get mad about. But that's exactly what this guy did. He got incredibly angry over something really small, and that is really not okay. And also, you're only 3 months into this relationship. From personal experience, having a fight that early into a relationship is really not a good sign. So hopefully something kind of works out between the two of you. But based on what you've described, this honestly doesn't sound good. An entitled customer keeps using me for information just so he can then buy our products online instead of purchasing them in the store. And I'm so annoyed, and I seriously hate this part of my job. So I'm a commission-based salesperson employee. We sell pretty niche items in my shop, but we have a solid customer base. Every so often, however, we will get a customer who wants the information we have about these products, but doesn't want to buy them from us. Amazon or eBay are often cheaper, so I understand trying to save money. What I don't understand is interactions like this. We had a customer in our store. They're not old, but a little bit older. The guy saw me when he entered and made a beeline for me. The customer said, "Hi, I have a lot of questions about your product. It's part of a hobby that I'm really interested in getting started in." Fast forward about 20 minutes, and I've been stuck with this man for 20 minutes answering countless questions. Every now and then, whenever I ask if he wants to start with any specific product, he'll get slightly cagey and say something along the lines of, "Oh, well, I'll have to think about it." Another 10 minutes pass by, and he asks me the prices for all of our basic introductory products. I help him out, and I ask if he's all set to either purchase something or if he would like some time to think it over by himself. But nope, he wants my undivided attention for even longer. More time passes, more questions come along, and he is still being oddly dodgy about actually buying anything. It's been 30 minutes now, and I'm not being pushy. I mean, I've even tried to separate him so that I can help someone else. It's clear to me he's not interested in buying, and I've given him a lot of my time and attention. Finally, he tells me he needs time to think about it, and then he leaves. Which is like, okay, no problem. It is a little bit ridiculous to take up that much of my time to ask questions that you could literally Google, but you know, whatever. 2 weeks pass by, and this guy comes back. He singles me out again and heads right to me. He needs an accessory for the stuff that he bought. The stuff he bought is indeed our product, and I asked him which of my coworkers helped him out since it wasn't me. He then says, "Oh, I got it from Amazon. It was like 5% off there." Then he begins to ask me more questions about the accessories, and the conversation begins to flow exactly as it did before. It is the busiest season of the year, and this man wants to take up as much of my time as possible without even making a purchase. I finally ask him, "Are you prepared to pick any of these out today?" He gets the same look on his face and says, "Oh, I just need to think about it." I tell him whenever he's ready to check out, I'll happily help him out. In the meantime, the shop is pretty busy, and there are a lot of customers that need help getting their stuff today. He then goes on to say, "Well, I just have a few more questions. They'll be really quick." This then turns into another 10 minutes. I answer his last question, he thanks me, and then he leaves. A week later, he comes back again and is looking for even more accessories. And this is to go with the other accessories that he ordered from Amazon. At this point, I'm upfront with him when he comes to me for help. I let him know I'm happy to help, but I can't keep giving him my undivided attention if he's not here to shop for something. The internet has all the information that I have. It's not fair for me or the other customers that I can't help anyone who is actually there to buy things. This guy then comes back to me with one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. He says to me, "Wow, fine, you won't see me here again." And honestly, overall, I just want to say that I hate it here. Yeah, that really is a gross thing for that guy to do. Like, if you're gonna go into a store and ask all these questions for 30 minutes at a time, then you really need to buy something or or get out. I mean, at that point, you're basically wasting everybody's time. Like, why would you do that to somebody? Especially someone who makes a living off of commissions. Like, that's not fair for them at all. And the original poster has it right. All of this information is online. I can understand that if someone comes into a store and they have some kind of question, it will maybe last 5 minutes tops. But talking their ear off for 30 minutes, that is obnoxious. So good for the original poster for putting their foot down and saying, no, enough is enough. Because that guy was clearly crossing the line, and you do not owe him a single thing. My girlfriend is demanding that I give up my opportunity to go to a prestigious master's degree program in Europe simply because she doesn't want to be alone in our home country. She even went as far as to threaten breaking up with me if I took this opportunity and left her in our home country. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my girlfriend and I have been dating for 3 years now, and we really love each other. We have met and begun dating during our college graduation year in 2020. I had always planned to pursue a degree abroad after graduation, but my girlfriend says no to long-distance relationships. For context, my girlfriend and I are from a poorer country, and life here is very hard. Our degree doesn't have much weight on international job markets, and today we are both working full-time jobs, but none of us are happy with our life here in our home country. We are also very underpaid. She's an internal auditor for a big international cigarette company, but gets paid about $250 a month, and I get pretty much the same salary for being a consultant at a boutique firm. We are both unhappy of our current situation, and that's why I want to go study abroad to be able to access better opportunities. My girlfriend is a very lovely person with almost no close friends, and most of the time, she feels depressed when she's left alone. When I first introduced my plans to her of going abroad 1 year after graduation, she was totally opposed to going into a long-distance relationship. She believes I am the only one that can make her happy and be able to bear living with. In addition, going abroad to study had never been a part of her plans. Although she complained all the time about our living conditions, it seems to me that she was fine with it for the most part. She has always believed that there has to be other ways to improve our living condition without leaving our home country, which is an idea that I totally disagree with, as our country is literally falling apart. All indicators have been worsening during the past 50 years. Years have gone by, and last year in 2022, we finally agreed that we would do our best to find international study opportunities abroad. Either we succeed together, or one of us succeeds this year, and the other one has to make everything to join the other person next year. Unfortunately, I was the one who got accepted in a prestigious university in Europe, while she didn't manage to get a single admission offer. And this is mainly because she applied to master's degree programs, which required things we didn't learn at school. Although we have already agreed on what we would do in this situation, she is now asking me to stay with her and reject my admission offer, which I believe is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She said to me, "I wasn't serious when I agreed on that. I thought you would love me enough to stay with me. Let's just break up. I'll just return to my miserable, lonely life. Please, just reject your offer and let's try again next year." Although I love her, I believe if I refuse my admission offer, I will regret it for the rest of my life. I was lucky enough to get this offer in the first place, so now it leaves me questioning everything, and I seriously don't know what to do. You would be crazy to give up that opportunity. And also, your girlfriend's being a complete idiot. Like, let me get this straight. You live in a very poor country where you only earn $250 a month, and now you have an opportunity to expand yourself and earn more money, and your girlfriend wants you to give that opportunity up? Like, what are you talking about? If she seriously wants to break up because you're moving forward with your life, then that's on her. That's not on you. It sounds like you had some kind of plan going, but now that that plan's actually happening, she's like, "Oh, psych, I'm just kidding. I didn't want to actually do it. You should give up on this opportunity or I'm gonna break up with you." Like, clearly this is her true colors coming out in full force, and I would not listen to that in the slightest. So please, for the sake of your education, as well as getting out of a country that is clearly very poor, I would take this opportunity and not look back. And hopefully your girlfriend can get on board and follow along with the plan you guys set up, because giving up this opportunity simply because she's jealous, by the way, would be really ignorant, and it is incredibly toxic that she would request that of you in the first place. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Am I the jerk for spending a lot of time in my bunker away from my family? So my grandfather was an incredibly talented man who also suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, and he was convinced that the nuclear apocalypse was going to end the human race at some point. So he built his own bunker and then buried the entrance because he was so convinced that both the cave KGB and the CIA were absolutely watching him, and he wanted to keep the bunker a secret. Yes, he was a crazy man. My dad inherited his house, but never lived there. So when I had my first child in 2018 and got married in 2019, my dad made an incredibly generous offer for the house. I mean, I bought computers that were more expensive than the house. The bunker became kind of an urban legend, mostly because my old grandpa used to tell a lot of crazy stories. But out of curiosity, I went looking for it and I found the entrance. The old man really did it. So, thanks to being stuck at home during the uneventful 2020 and 2021, I started to remodel the bunker to look less like a fallout vault and more like my own personal man cave. Everyone loves it, especially my kids. So the house is decorated to my wife's taste, while I can do whatever I want in the bunker. I can play games, I can fix a computer, I can set up a whole home server, work from home there, etc. However, lately she has been complaining about me being distant and spending a lot of time there and less time with her and our child. She is pregnant again, so she said she was worried, but I just promised to spend more time at our house. After a few weeks, that wasn't enough for her, and she accuses me of abandoning her. Honestly, I'm asking for a judgment call here, because I'm trying to be there for my family, but this bunker feels like it's the only thing that's really mine, and it's the only place where I can actually have a break. But my wife has said she's going to seal the entrance, otherwise I might miss the birth of my child and not even notice. Should I just move all my stuff into the house and forget about it? Am I really being neglectful here, or is this just her pregnancy hormones talking? To be clear, I do help with the house chores and spend time with my son when I'm there, and I have an intercom in the bunker so my wife can just call me if she needs anything, so it's not like she can't reach me. So am I the jerk for spending a lot of time in my bunker away from my family? Honestly, yeah, you're kind of the jerk in this situation. Your pregnant wife is raising your kid practically by yourself. Meanwhile, you're escaping to this bunker and spending your alone time without anyone around. Like, you're married, you do know that, right? You have responsibilities and you've got things you need to do around the house, much more than just chores and responsibilities. Like, you really do need to spend time with your wife and kids. And here's the thing, I don't think you're the jerk for spending time in the bunker, mostly because it kind of seems like he works remotely in the bunker itself for work. So that's not a problem. Like, that's part of the job. Okay, go for it. But it's the fact that your wife is saying, hey, I really don't want you spending so much time down there, and you're just straight up ignoring it. If you're gonna start a family, this is no longer all about you. So in my opinion, your actions need to reflect what's best for your family, and not just what's best for you and your needs. My entitled dad made me abandon my dog right as they're about to be put down, and I am so unbelievably heartbroken by this, I seriously don't know what to do. For the last 12 years, I have been essentially one of, if not the main caregiver for our family dog. My dog's name is Max, and I was the one who would be mainly responsible for taking care of him, as I was typically responsible for letting him out and feeding him 3 to 4 times a day, including as I was getting ready for work at my full-time job. I would also be the one responsible for cleaning up the dog waste on a bi-weekly basis, and when it was time for everyone else to go on vacation, I would regularly be the one to volunteer to stay behind just to take care of the dog. Max was one of the 2 main pets our family had, and the other one passed away a few years back from old age. He was also a significant part of the reason why I probably didn't fully unalive myself, because at the time I thought I wouldn't be able to love him and care for him as well anymore, and that they could have also just brought down his quality of life, which has been decreasing lately as he gets older, and there had been signs that he was going for a while now, like how he was getting more lethargic and he was unable to control his bowels, and he was drinking excessive amounts of water while eating less and less, though he had gotten even worse within the last week, as he was suddenly vomiting multiple times throughout the day. He was drooling and had a runny nose, and he was unable to consistently stand, sit, or walk, especially on stairs without any kind of help. So that mostly catches you up to more recently, when yesterday, my parents scheduled Max to be put to sleep at our local vet clinic, and this would all be done as we sat around him, pet him, and held him, and just talked to him. At this point, I had asked my parents if I could call into work so I didn't have to go in for at least a day after, because I knew I would be a complete mess, and we don't actually need my money from work for anything like rent or groceries, so me having the day off would be fine. But my dad said that he didn't want me to skip out of work, and we work in the same building and we live together, so I couldn't take off work without him knowing and yelling at me. So I figured I would just go anyways. Then, this morning, we had another session of trying to give Max as much love as we could, all before we took him in. My father, my youngest brother, and I went in with Max, and we were taken into one of their exam rooms rooms, and it looked like it was just for animals who were ready to be put down. We got them up onto the table where they could treat and groom the animals, and we tried to give them some love for the last time, while also trying to keep them on the table, and trying but failing to not cry, as we waited for about 10 minutes, after which time a nurse came in to check in on us, and then another 10 minutes later, she and another nurse came in to insert some kind of catheter in through his arm, and I assume so he wouldn't make a mess as he went away. Though my dad had walked us out of the room by this point, I assumed it was because he didn't want us distracting the nurses or our dog, or because it would have been too crowded in the room. Then, about 15 minutes later, they finished up and went back into the room, where I thought we would stay until Max fully passed away. But apparently, my dad only wanted us to go back in just to spend a couple of minutes to say goodbye, before they even sedated him or done anything else. I was really disappointed by this, as I wasn't there at all when our other dog passed away 3 years ago, and being there in the last few minutes of him being alive was like 90% of the reason I had actively wanted to be there for him. Plus, I know that when a pet's owners aren't there for them when they go, they often are way more nervous and scared, which is something I knew that would happen, both because he was acting fidgety the entire time that we were there, and because he had always been nervous and high-stressed, especially when he was separated from all of us, or when he was around new people, or in a new place, all of which was happening right now. So I protested, as being there for him would literally just take another 10 to 15 minutes at most, and it wasn't something that I couldn't just come back to do later. He kept insisting that we had to go, even though the nurses specifically mentioned how we could be there as long as we needed, but in particular until he passed away. I initially didn't understand what the rush to leave was, but I was not in an arguing mood, nor was I even sure what was happening, or if we would maybe come back again after they set some more stuff up or whatever, so I just decided to follow him. Apparently though, the reason he wanted to leave, and leave permanently and entirely, not just for a couple of minutes like I hoped, was because he just wanted to get home so he could start getting rid of all of Max's things, like his dishwater and his bed and all of his stuff, as well as specifically vacuuming up to get rid of all the dog hair and everything. I was hoping to at least keep some of his things, since it really helped when other dogs passed away to have things and pictures just to remind me of when she's gone. I feel like not only did he let Max down for not being there for him, he also let him down by basically trying to erase his memory from our entire house, and letting us down by not letting us grieve and mourn him properly or fully. I also feel like he wasn't emotionally prepared to be there for it. He could have stepped outside himself and given us the chance to stay, but instead he took it away from both of us, then basically made a point of how over it he was by not letting us keep any of his stuff, and mentioning how he had plans to go to work later, as if we should all just be moving past it or whatever like he is. I'm not sure how long it's going to take to fully move on though, but I feel like the drive home is definitely not enough, especially since I feel like I can't stop imagining the worst case scenario of him passing away feeling scared, alone, and afraid. I don't know how I'm supposed to remember that over anything else, like taking him on walks or on vacations or to the dog park or anything. This is all so heartbreaking and I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, first and foremost, this is really heartbreaking. I can't imagine not being able to say goodbye to a loved one just like that. And for me, a dog is a loved one. It is a pet, yes, but it is absolutely a part of the family in my mind. And that dog is relying on you, and it trusted you to take care of him. And the way your dad acted was unbelievably heartless and cruel. To not allow you to sit there and be with your dog in its last moments, especially after you were the one that took care of it for so many years, is unbelievably toxic. And that is not something I would take lightly in the slightest. I mean, I would be heartbroken. And he is clearly trying to erase any memory of Max from the house. I totally agree with you. I mean, keep something. Keep some kind of trinket. Something to remind you that this was a good dog and that you loved and you cared for it. Max helped you through some of your darkest times in your life, and that is something you can absolutely hold on to. So truly, I'm so sorry. Your dad is a complete jerk, and you absolutely did not deserve to miss out on this moment in Max's life. My teachers demand that we stop picking mangoes off the tree behind our school. So as a result of us maliciously complying, the mangoes begin to rot and it causes so many problems for the school. Here's what happened. So this happened back in 2010 in middle school, and for a bit of context, I live in an old rural town, not in the United States. The only middle school in this town used to be a nursery, the kind where plants and trees are grown or sold, not a medical nursery. Most of the trees were cut down when the place became a school, and a few of them were fruit trees, with 3 or 4 of them being mango trees. All of us kids loved taking them home by the bunches to enjoy them with with our families or eating them during lunch and breaks. Occasionally, some kids would try throwing rocks or sticks at the tree branches to make some of the mangoes fall over, and one of the teachers didn't like this. Understandably, throwing rocks can be dangerous, but nobody was throwing them at each other, and they were careful looking for any people passing by as not to hurt anyone. Now, the most logical thing to do would be to forbid students from throwing things at trees, right? But instead, the school passed a rule that any student caught picking up the mangoes, whether they be on the floor or trying to get them from the tree, would get in trouble and even face suspension. We all thought it was a dumb idea, but me and a few other students could smell the eventual disaster from a mile away. So nobody protested, and everyone at school agreed to comply, even the kids who were known to be rebellious. Well, about a month or so later, the whole school was absolutely stinking of rotten mangoes. And for those who don't know, mango season usually peaks during early spring and late summer. Plus, where we live, rainy season hits in the summer. So imagine old rotting mangoes in muddy water puddles that sit for days at a time in the summer heat. Trust me when I say this is not a good combination of smells. The teachers by that point told us that if we see a mango in good condition, we could pick it up and we could eat it. But we simply refused. We couldn't possibly break the new rule that was imposed by a respectable teacher. We had to maliciously comply and obey like the good students we were. The school had to pay a cleanup crew to dump all the rubbish, and some of the parents, my mom included, complained about the wastefulness of perfectly edible fruit. The next year, we were all enjoying some delicious mango-flavored ice pops, all under the shade of those good old summer breezes. And the mango ice pops were made and sold by a classmate. And as it turns out, even the teacher that had originally started the complaints ended up being a loyal customer for these ice pops as well. So in the end, it all kind of worked out. You can tell this story happened outside the United States because you can bet those mango trees probably would have been chopped down if any of the students got caught trying to eat them. I personally really love this story because this is really funny. Instead of complaining, they decided to maliciously comply, and that caused a lot of problems for the school. So maybe next time, if the kids aren't bothering anybody and they're literally not hurting anybody else around them, then maybe just leave them alone and let them have some fun, because they literally didn't do anything wrong. I paid my favorite artists to listen to my music, and as a result, they didn't like it, and I got roasted by the nearly 400 people who were watching their live stream. And not only have I never felt more embarrassed by something happening to me, but I also feel very motivated and very inspired to continue making music and continue to do what I enjoy. Here's what happened. So I have to preface this before I dive in. The biggest thing is that I'm not angry or upset about this. This is more just getting my thoughts out there. Today, I saw that my favorite artist was streaming live online, listening to other people's music. I've listened to this music for 10 years now, and he's gotten really popular over time. It's been amazing to watch him grow into the artist he is today, and I will always love him for that. I had seen him go live a couple of times listening to other people's music, and I never participated. I just listened to other people's songs and I just kind of hung out. But today, my fiance saw he was live and pressured me into paying for him to hear my song. So I paid and sat in horror for 2 hours. I was on my phone scrolling through Facebook when I heard him say my name, and instantly my stomach dropped. I regretted everything, and I hated that I put myself in this situation. The feeling only worsened when I heard the beat come on, and I realized there was 400 people watching. I sat in horror as I watched his face sour up. The comments were also not very nice. I wanted to make him turn it off, but it was too late. As the song ended, I read all the comments about me being a clone of other artists, and virtually everybody was roasting me. A couple people enjoyed it, but the general consensus was that I was terrible. I was gutted. I was completely embarrassed. I went into my room and I cuddled with my dog for 20 minutes, and then I realized something, and I've never felt more clear. As I said before, I've listened to him for a long time. I remember not liking his music at first, but as time went on, he got better and he blew up. After realizing this, I got up and I went to my computer where I record my music, and I listened to my first songs all the way up until my new ones, and I almost started to cry. I heard myself grow. I heard myself become more comfortable, and I heard my story from my point of view when the events were happening. It was amazing. I'm so proud of myself, and I'm so happy I paid to get roasted by my favorite artist, because now I have so much inspiration and drive to continue to do what I do. This story turned out to be way better than I thought it would be. Like, obviously the original poster came into this saying, you know what, I want to have this guy listen to my music, and then it all just kind of went south pretty quickly after that. I really think this story is a good example of how you shouldn't let other people dictate your future as a creative person. This easily could have destroyed destroyed this person. This could have made them stop doing music pretty much for the rest of their lives. Getting that kind of criticism from somebody that you look up to, as well as 400 viewers in this guy's chat, potentially could have been devastating for this person. But they fought through it. They were able to take some time to themselves, really process what was happening, and then decide, you know what, I have grown as an artist. Because at the end of the day, that really is what it's all about. They were able to look back on their music and say, I've grown a lot, I've been able to learn a lot, and even though this person doesn't like my music right now, it doesn't mean that I won't be able to do more music in the future. And that, in my opinion, is such a good lesson to learn. And you know what? Forget what this guy thinks. Who cares if he's some big streamer who likes music and has blown up because of their own music? Their personal taste in what you create doesn't dictate your future in the slightest. So I really like that the original poster was able to overcome this type of criticism and have some kind of positive outlook about the situation in general. My entitled mother-in-law freaks out on me and my wife, claiming that we ruined her Mother's Day by not giving her enough attention. Things got so bad that she freaked out in the middle of a restaurant and stormed off after making a massive scene. Here's what happened. So my mother-in-law is an annoying person, to say it in the nicest way. She has extremely low self-worth, and she compensates that by forcing the world to go around her. As family who interact with her regularly, we are forced to treat her like a queen every day, every minute. If we don't, well, then there will be drama. All the way from pouting, going to her room, fainting, or leaving the house, all the way up to a full-blown breakdown, including saying, why should I live on this planet anymore if no one even cares about me? So yeah, to see an old woman act like that just because we don't give her a few minutes of attention is a bizarre thing to witness. So it's exhausting to be around her. But what else can my wife and sister-in-law do? She is their mom, and they both try their best to make her feel special, but they would also like to interact with her as their mom too, not just as some out-of-touch royalty. They would like to crack jokes, chat about general things, and share their problems, and not having to constantly worry about what statement might tick her off. When they were kids in her orbit, things were fine as she controlled them, and that made her feel like she's the center of attention. Now that they are married and have families of their own, and now that she is not the anchor of the family, she has started becoming more and more demanding that we perform some elaborate rituals just to make her feel special, and that is extremely exhausting. So anyways, my mother-in-law and father-in-law have traveled to our country and are staying with us for a short time to help us with the kids. As we all live halfway across the globe, my wife planned an elaborate Mother's Day event centered around her mom, even though she herself is a mom as well. This also included a lunch at a popular ethnic cuisine restaurant. By the way, had she not planned it herself, there will be a snarky comment at the end of the day saying something like, "Seems you don't care about your mom enough to plan something for me. I was waiting the whole day for you to do something." So anyways, morning went uneventful as we had been pampering the grown-up toddler, and my mother-in-law was quite happy about it. We go to the restaurant and we set up the table as my wife is bringing others in. My 2-year-old decides to throw a temper tantrum for, toddler reasons, but then my mother-in-law sees this beautiful garden in front of the restaurant and wants my wife to take a picture of her. My mother-in-law doesn't care about anything and forces my wife to take several pictures as my wife is holding a crying, fussing, and kicking toddler on her hip. Having basked in the glory of being in the center of attention, my mother-in-law is satisfied enough and they all come into the restaurant. My wife is really upset from the events, but she's trying her best to be cheerful. The waiter comes in to take the order, and right then my mother-in-law decides to go to the restroom. My wife asks her to order before she goes, as the kids will get hungry if we wait for a long while. Now this proved to be a big mistake for my wife because she asked this in a normal, regular conversational tone instead of a pleading or a pleasing pampering tone. I mean, how dare we order her royalty on what to do? That was apparently strike one. As me and my wife are looking at the myriad of choices and trying to order for the kids, ourselves, and everything else along with it, we got absorbed into ordering without paying attention to the most important person in the room. My mother-in-law wasn't the center of attention for 2 full minutes. I mean, how dare we? That apparently was strike two. We didn't notice that and asked her what she wants. She asked if they had a specific ethnic dish, which is a regular staple that we have almost every single day at home. What she was asking for would be like ordering a grilled cheese sandwich, and that too in an indifferent, meek tone. She was indirectly implying that she was just some kind of nobody, so she is ordering some peasant food. Now apparently that was our cue to realize our mistake, drop to the ground, beg her forgiveness, and bring the world back into alignment before things start to go downhill. We failed to notice the change in her tone, which is apparently strike 3 for everybody across the board. board. Instead, my wife suggests and says the following: "Mom, we have that almost every day at home." Now, as my wife is talking, my mother-in-law cuts her off and starts to say, "I know that. Are you saying I don't know that?" And at that point, she storms off to the restroom. We are all figuring out what in the world just happened, so we just finish ordering our food. The mother-in-law comes back and unloads onto my wife about how she has disrespected her. We brought her to this country, and ever since then, my wife has made it her mission to apparently do nothing but humiliate her. And at this point, her mom starts to cry. I quickly realize what had conspired, but my innocent wife, whose heart is only filled with love and not such evil games, doesn't realize the drama that my mother-in-law wants to cause. Instead, she is trying to understand how suggesting that the dish is a regular staple at home is somehow humiliating to her mom. But her mom goes on to say, "You're implying that I'm dumb and you're ruining Mother's Day. All daughters do special things on Mother's Day, and here you are ruining mine." And those are just a few of the things that she screamed at my wife. My wife tries to backpedal in some kind of way, but my mother-in-law is adamant that my wife humiliated her by implying that she's dumb for not knowing a staple food in our country. She then storms off to sit outside. It was extremely bizarre to see a 60-year-old woman throw a temper tantrum and accuse her daughter of trying to humiliate her. Now, normally we would run after her. We would apologize and beg her to come back in. We would keep apologizing throughout lunch. But this time we were so over this garbage, especially after dealing with this so many times before. My wife does all this planning, wanted to be a good daughter, wanted her mom to feel special, and in the end has ruined Mother's Day by talking to her mom as if her mom was not royalty. So a 60-year-old woman started crying in the middle of a lunch rush in a popular restaurant, all because we didn't give her attention for 5 minutes, all while we were busy ordering food for her kids. And we are just left scratching our head over this, not sure what to make of any of it. The mother-in-law in this story seriously sounds disturbed. I can only imagine what it would be like to try and grow up in that household. Like, can you even imagine how obnoxious she must have been? Like, every day, all day has to be about her. Like, she needs to be the center of attention all the time. And that's insane to me. Not to mention all the work that the original poster's wife put into this event. I mean, this mother-in-law is so entitled, and her actions are seriously so uncalled for. So hopefully in the future, you're able to avoid this lady altogether, because the way she's acting is unbelievably obnoxious, and there's no reason to demand that you are the center of attention all the time. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my boyfriend's food after he ruined my food photos? So I have an Instagram account dedicated to photos and short videos of food from local restaurants, and these are all places in my local city. I don't turn meals into a whole photo shoot production when I go out, but I like to snap a few photos every day as it comes out. I've got about 1,000 followers. It's just a hobby for me, but I have made friends with some other bloggers, and we like to go out and get pictures together and try new restaurants. I prefer doing this with my foodie girls because my boyfriend absolutely hates it and will go out of his way to take a big bite of food or mess up his plate with his fork before I can snap a picture, and he rolls his eyes when I take pictures of my food, so I pretty much stopped bothering when we went out together. Money has been tight lately because of some medical bills, so I haven't been able to go out with my foodie girls, and the infrequent dates with my boyfriend is the only chance I get to eat out. I had to sit him down and have a talk, basically asking him to just let me enjoy things, and I told him I was gonna take pictures of my own food when we went out, while also asking if he could please not be immature about it. And since we alternate between who pays for the date and who just enjoys the food, I told him I would appreciate it if he could spare the 30 seconds for me to snap a picture of the appetizer as well as his meal on nights while I'm paying. And I got a sort of half-hearted do whatever you want confirmation. Sunday was my turn to pay, and he let me take a picture of the appetizer with minimal fussing. But then when the entrees came out, I went to snap a picture of his, and he messed it up with his fork. Then he reached over and stirred my pasta to also ruin the photo of my own meal. I was so upset about that I refused to pay for his half of the food at the end of the meal, which really upset him because he said he wouldn't have offered a cocktail if he knew I was gonna skip my turn. He says I owe him one because I don't get to decide not to pay according to our agreement after we've already ordered. This is all unbelievably frustrating, and I seriously don't know what to do. First off, you're not the jerk for not wanting to pay for your boyfriend. He is acting incredibly toxic and very dismissive towards your hobbies. Like, seriously, all he had to do was just sit there and let you take pictures. This is something you're interested in. This is your hobby. Like, seriously, just let people enjoy enjoy things. Let people have fun with their silly little hobbies, even if you don't understand it. This guy very easily could have sat back, been on his phone, stepped away and used the bathroom, while you took literally 30 seconds to take pictures, if not shorter. And it's not even the fact that he messed up his own food. He also messed up your food. And I'm sure that these places you're going to are probably a little bit expensive. Like, to get food that looks well presented and isn't just run-of-the-mill stuff, it probably costs a pretty penny. So I can completely understand your anger and your frustration towards your boyfriend. So you know what? You're not the jerk. If I was in your shoes, there's no way I would pay for the meal. And I would absolutely personally feel very justified in my anger, because he ruined the one thing you wanted to do that night, besides, I don't know, try to spend time with your boyfriend, who, by the way, is not very supportive of you or your endeavors. So hopefully you can see the jerk that this guy absolutely is, because his behavior is incredibly immature, and you deserve so much better than this treatment. Am I the jerk for refusing to listen to my mother-in-law's speech on my wedding? So to start things out, I hate speeches. I never understood the appeal, and I think they are boring, exhausting, and very, very forced. But having said that, this is just my opinion, and I never forced it on anyone. I have sat through long, exhausting speeches without complaining like any other decent human being. When it was my turn to get married, however, I requested that no speeches would be given. We wrote that we loved everyone and that we knew they loved us. So if you want to say anything to us directly, say it in private. My husband thought it was funny, but he knew my feelings about speeches. We had a small wedding with only loved ones, and it was all weekend long. My husband loves games, so the wedding planner did a really great Taskmaster type of games, and everyone really appreciated it. Dinner came, and my mother-in-law stood up and tried to start making a speech. She said, "I know we are forbidden to make speeches by the bride, but this is my only son getting married, so I will do what I want to." Honestly, when she started doing this, I didn't hear the rest of it because I was seeing red. My sisters and bridesmaids were shocked. I pretended like she wasn't talking and continued my conversation with my girls, and they did the same. My mother-in-law was furious. Both sister-in-laws were furious, and my husband was very angry that it showed in his profile. He refused to look at me. The rest of the night was incredibly awkward. My husband's side was sulking in their seats. I wanted to make sure it wasn't ruined for the rest of us, and we ended up having a blast. The next day, I spent it with my family and my friends. My husband said that I was very wrong in what I did. I couldn't force my mother-in-law to shut up, and he knew that she wouldn't no matter how much we told her. Apparently, I shouldn't have disrespected and humiliated her like this, and it really seems like our marriage has started off on the wrong foot. So am I the jerk for refusing to listen to this stupid speech? Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk in this situation. You made your wishes very clear for this wedding. You didn't want anybody giving any speeches. This is very clear cut, and it sounds like this was a very selective group of people who were coming to the wedding. They all knew the rules. They knew what was expected of them there at the wedding, and they knew what they should and should not do. And giving a speech was on the do not do list. It doesn't matter if this is her only child or her 17th child. She broke the rules, so she has to deal with the consequences. And seriously, this is really unfortunate of your husband, because I seriously think he's in the wrong. He's picking his mother and her dignity over you, and that is not okay. He needs to fix that. And you're also under no obligation at your wedding to listen to your mother-in-law and her stupid speech. So seriously, in my opinion, you are not the jerk. You didn't do anything wrong. And if anything, your husband and your mother-in-law are absolutely the jerks in this situation. Am I the jerk for telling one of my good friends that I wouldn't be attending his wedding simply because my wife wasn't invited? So my best friend from college and I are both having weddings this year. His is in June and mine is in November. Mine is really more of just a party because I married my wife at the courthouse about a year ago because we didn't want to wait until we could afford the party to commit to one another. He invited me to his wedding, but not my wife. I waited until his deadline for RSVPs and then told him I wouldn't attend because my wife and I go to events together, or we don't go at all because she is the woman behind me just as much as I am the man behind her, and we are effectively a unit. And I know I shouldn't have waited, but I wanted to try and push off an uncomfortable conversation. Well, needless to say, he blew up on me and accused me of always choosing others over him and not being a decent friend or caring about him at all. He said that he didn't invite my wife because there physically wasn't enough space at the venue and that I wasn't the only one affected by this. He went on to essentially say that I need to not be codependent and that he wasn't asking me to go on a 6-month deployment for my family, but that I needed to be there for him to be a good friend. I eventually caved because he made me feel bad, and I said that I'd go without my wife, while also making that that decision after talking about it with my wife. But my thought now is that if you plan a wedding at a physically small space, it's okay to invite just me, but by the same token, don't be upset when I decline because it's the type of deal where you made your bed and now you have to lie in it. It's also worth noting that I had a similar constraint on my wedding, but cut 2 family members just to allow people to have their family with them. Now, for some further context, I am a government controls engineer working on a very expensive, very time-consuming project currently. I'm not at the top of the chain, but I've been able to advance my career very quickly, so I am in a position of responsibility. I missed his bachelor party because I needed to travel for a work meeting. Now, my friend is very much still the Chad, let's get drunk type, and I'm just not like that anymore. I have a wife, I have 2 small children who are the absolute most important thing to me. I don't respond to his texts nearly as often or as quickly, and I don't endlessly play video games with our old group like I used to, so I think it's fair for him to feel he's not as important, because while I love him, he also just isn't compared to my career, but most of all my family. Now, my wife and I are not attached to the hip. To clarify, weddings, funerals, graduations, work dinners, we all go together. If it's a boys' night out or a girls' night out, we have no problem being apart. So this honestly begs the question, am I the jerk for turning down going to this wedding, all because my wife wasn't invited? First off, I can't believe you were guilt-tripped into going to that wedding. Seriously, your friend is an awful friend. The fact that he wasn't accommodating towards your wife really is honestly ridiculous. Like, he could have been like, oh, don't worry, just bring your wife with you. You're probably one of the few people, if not the only person who complained about this. So I really don't know why he decided to freak out and guilt trip you into going to this wedding. And this guy is very clearly not your friend. He's being an absolute jerk, and he seriously needs to check himself. Now, when it comes to the wedding itself, the original poster actually has an update for us. He goes on to say that he's not going to the wedding, and this friend is not going to his. And also, the friendship they have has been terminated. And apparently, this is not the first instance where some kind of tension has been brought up. And honestly, with all things considered, and for the way this guy is acting, all I have to say is good riddance. This is not someone that I would personally want in my life, and I seriously don't blame you for deciding to not go to his wedding, because he is showing some true colors. Regardless of if you reserved your spot on time or not, his behavior is atrocious, and you seriously do not need that in your life. An entitled Karen makes fun of my weight after I was just trying to joke and have a good time at work, but I had a great comeback and I ended up putting her right in her place. Here's what happened. So I've been working at a department store in my hometown for 10 months, and in working, I've encountered so many entitled people. Men demanding that their children play on the merchandise stands that break incredibly easily, and some entitled Karens demanding free gift cards. This time around, when I was covering an evening shift for one of my coworkers, a Karen oozing with entitlement from her pores came to my register and asked about the bags. Since laws were passed, my home state banned plastic bags and instead sell fabric bags for nearly $2. That seems ridiculous to me because I see so many bags rip so easily, but that's another story for another day. This entitled Karen says she doesn't have time for talking, which I mean, I totally get that. Some people really need to buy stuff and then get out. When she asked about our bag policy and how much we sell them for, I was in a cheery mood and I said to her, usually my store sells them for about $2, but if you're really nice to me, you can get them for free. The woman just gawked at me and steam came out of her ears in anger. I asked her if there was a problem and she started screeching. Well, that's not nice of you. You force people to be nice to you in exchange for a free bag. Are you serious, you fat cow? For the record, I'm not a cow. I'm a short girl with some curves. I wasn't going to tolerate any more mean people because I had dealt with enough of them recently. I knew I was risking my job and being mean right back to the entitled woman. So I said to her, ma'am, I'm not a fat cow. I prefer to be called a plus-size pixie. However, I will let this slide because I want you out of my store as soon as possible. No free bags for you then. Have a nice day. Now, I've been in customer service since my teenage years, so I've become speedy in helping customers with purchases, and I charged the woman for the bags before she left with a dagger-shooting glare. The customers in line behind her clapped for me as the woman walked away. Seriously, why do so many people forget their manners? Did quarantine over COVID-19 make everyone forget to be kind and polite? Does it hurt a person to be nice and give a smile? If someone can make sense of this, I would greatly appreciate it. Yeah, that entitled Karen was being really rude. Like, seriously, you were just trying to lighten the mood. You were obviously just joking with customers. And honestly, that's kind of a catch-22 situation. Sometimes it will go well depending on who it is, but most times in my experience, it's not going to go well. And the person is probably going to be a really big weirdo about it. I I know when I worked in customer service, that's all I ran into. You would have to gamble on whether or not you had to be neutral and very distant from the customer, or it was someone that you could actually joke around with and have a good time. And I'm absolutely with the original poster on this one. They were literally just trying to be nice and smile to this entitled Karen. They were trying to brighten a day and clearly make a joke. Like, I really think anybody who has a brain can see that the original poster was joking. I don't think she was being completely serious by saying, oh, if you're nice to me, you'll get a free bag. So it's really weird for this entitled Karen to freak out and be like, oh my God, I've got to be nice to you to get a free bag. You're a fat cow. Like, come on, that is so uncalled for. So honestly, don't stop being you, because that customer was just a stick in the mud, and it sounds like you're trying to make the best out of working in retail. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.